Hello. Hi. Oh God. Okay. Hi. 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 Oh my God. Hi. I am so nervous. How are you? I am indeed wearing a suit. I deliver like I said. Like I said, I'm going to deliver. The lighting doesn't show the bow tie, but it's there. But probably shouldn't be a problem. Hi. Hi. This is completely new. This is my wood. I I did my best to deliver on everything I said I would. First, in having printed all the stories that I'm going to read to you tonight, I am going to play some nice music in the background. You know, some little piano, creepypasta piano. We have Damon here. We have a TV. We have a TV who's gonna show. We have Slenderman. We have Alegria, which is a specific reference for obvious reasons, for narration reasons. The notifications are gonna be muted, but I will see them. And in between breaks, I'm going to read them out loud. So all I want you to do, get cozy, get something to eat, get something to drink. I brought myself. I put like 4 tea bags on this kettle, and I'm going to keep my throat stable by doing that. There's a lot of reading I need to do. I make no promises if I have sudden dyslexia and I mess up some words. I make no promises on that. Um, yeah, I just don't have much else to say other than it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Whatever happens, happens. It's between me and God. There's a total of 9 stories that we're gonna read tonight. I'm sorry. Yeah, there was a lot of stories I needed to skip for reasons that they were too long. There was a story of Ben drowned. I looked through the whole post. It was immense. And there's like videos and clips and the whole ARG. It's a huge rabbit hole. I would have loved to read it, but it was a lot. Yeah, we have. If you do exclamation, if you see over there, if you see exclamation reading, it's gonna give you the whole, all of the stories that we're gonna see. Ben Drown is massive but very worth the dive if folks have the time. Yes, like absolutely. Right now, I'm just gonna treat you to 9 stories. We have Abandoned by Disney, The Rake, Jeff the Killer, Squidward Suicide, Salgo, The Russian Sleep Experiment, Smile PNG, or JPEG, I don't remember, The Strangest Tape I've Ever Seen, and Eyeless Jack. Each of them have their own lengths, pacing, they're very unique each other. Okay, let's see. Anyway, all right, let's ask Damon here to put up the image. Damon, if you don't, Damon, can you possibly do the thing? Can you do the thing where we like put the tape, play the tape on? Ah, it works. It works. Oh, I'm so proud of that. It's so minimal to do, but I'm so proud of that. If you wanna know, I drew all of the little icons that are gonna pop in there from all the stories. I drew all of them last week, and I'm very happy with them. Let's begin. Hi, Aliantha. Thank you. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay. This is the story of Smile Dog. For people that don't know, Smile Dog is the picture dog, which is meant to be an info hazard. If you don't know what an info hazard is, it means that you are affected by it by simply knowing what it is. So the thing you just, the burden of knowledge or the burden of knowing the meaning of this, it's the horror that implies. So it has a similar formula to what the Ring will be. Spread the curse. Just you see those types of. This is like one of the first spam emails. Like, if you don't share this to X amount of people, you're gonna die, or he's gonna come to you in at night and kill you. It was that dumb shit, which back at those days was pretty effective. So this follows up on that type of story, on that type of concept. So, Smile Dog. I first met in person with Mary E. In the summer of 2007, I had arranged with her husband of 15 years, Terrence, to see her for an interview. Mary had initially agreed since I was not a newsman but rather an amateur writer, gathering information for a new early college assignments, and, if all went accordingly to plan, some pieces of fiction. We scheduled the interview for a particular weekend when I was in Chicago on unrelated business. But at the last moment, Mary changed her mind and locked herself in the couple's bedroom, refusing to meet with me. For half an hour, I sat with Terrence as we camped outside the bedroom door, listening and taking notes while he attempted fruitlessly to calm his wife. We're good, right? This is a good start. Cognito hazard. That's the right term. I'm gonna take a few breaks between paragraphs so I can like check on you, or if I had to, react. All right. The things Mary said made little sense, but fit with the pattern I was expecting. Though I could not see her, I could tell from her voice that she was crying. And more often than not, her objections to speaking with me center around an incoherent diatribe on her dreams, her nightmares. Terrence apologized profusely when we ceased the exercise, and I did my best to take it in stride. Recall that I wasn't a reporter in search of a story, but merely a curious young man in search of information. Besides, I thought at the time I could perhaps find another similar case if I put my mind and resources to it. Mary E. was the sub for a small Chicago-based bulletin board system in 1992. When she first encountered Smile.jpg, and her life changed forever. She and Terrence had been married for only 5 months. Mary was one of the estimated 400 people who saw the image when it was posted as a hyperlink on the BBS, though she is only one who has spoken openly about the experience. The rest have remained anonymous, or are perhaps dead. In 2005, when I was only in 10th grade, Smile JPEG was first brought to my attention by my burgeoning interest in web-based phenomena. Mary was the most often cited victim of what is sometimes referred to as smile.dog. The being smile.jpg is reputed to display. What caught my interest, other than the obvious macabre elements of the cyber legend and my proclivity towards such things, was the sheer lack of information. Usually to the point that people don't believe it ever exists other than as a rumor or hoax. It is unique because though the entire phenomenon centers on a picture file, that file is nowhere to be found on the internet. Certainly many fully manipulated simulacra litter the web, showing up with the most frequency on sites such as the image board 4chan, particularly the X-focused paranormal subboard. A lot of words. It is suspected these are fakes because they do not have the effect the true smile.jpg is believed to have, namely sudden onset temporal lobe epilepsy and acute anxiety. I know that part. This purported reaction in the viewer is one of the reasons the phantom-like smile.jpg is regarded with such disdain, since it is patently absurd, though depending on who you ask, the reluctance to acknowledge smile.jpg existence might be just as much out of fear as it is out of disbelief. Neither smile.jpg nor smile.dog is mentioned anywhere on Wikipedia, though the website features articles on such other, perhaps more scandalous shock sites as hello.jpg or 2 girls 1 cup. Don't look that up. I don't know. This is a 2012 post. Yeah, don't mention. Don't look that up. Don't look that up. Just don't look that up. Just don't do it. That is indeed a cognito hazard. You're best not knowing what that is. They must be best for no. Don't. Got it. Let's not get into this topic. Where was I? Any attempt to create a page pertaining to smile.jpg is summarily deleted in any of the encyclopedia's many admins. Encounters with smile.jpg are the stuff of internet legend. Mary E.'s story is not unique. There are unverified rumors of smile.jpg showing up on early days on Usenet, and even one persistent tale that in 2002, a hacker flooded the forums of humor and satire website, Something Awful, with a deluge of smile dog pictures, rendering it almost Half the forms used at the time epileptic. That's diabolic. That's fucking evil. It is also said that in the mid to late 90s that smile.jpg circulated on the Usenet as an attachment of a chain email with the subject line, "Smile, God loves you." Yet despite the huge exposure these stunts would generate, there are very few who admit to having experienced any of them, and no trace of the file or any link has ever been discovered. Those who claim to have seen smile.jpg often weakly joke that they were far too busy to save a copy of the picture to the hard drive. Right. However, all alleged victims offer the same description of the photo, a dog-like creature, usually described as appearing similar to a Siberian husky, illuminated by the flash on the camera, sits in a dim room, the only background detail that is visible being a human hand extending from the darkness near the left side of the frame. This hand is empty, but is usually described as beckoning. Of course, most attention is given to the dog, or dog creature, as some victims are more certain than others about what they claim to have seen. The muzzle of the beast is repeatedly split in a wide grin, revealing 2 rows of very wide, very straight, very sharp teeth. Very human looking teeth. Yeah, that one over there. So the story. Sugarless tea. This is, of course, not a description given immediately after viewing the picture, but rather a recollection of the victims, who claim to have seen the picture endlessly repeated in their mind's eye during the time they are, in reality, having epileptic fits. These fits are reported to continue indeterminately, often while the victims sleep, resulting in very vivid and disturbing nightmares. These may be treated with medication, though in some says it is... That's a word. Some says it is more effective than others. Mary E, I assume, was not on effective medication. That was why after I visited to her apartment in 2007, I sent out feelers to several folklore and urban legend-oriented news groups, websites, and mailing lists, hoping to find the name of a supposed victim of smile.jpg, who felt more interested in talking about his experiences. For a time, nothing happened, and at length I forgot completely about my pursuits. Since I had begun my freshman year of college and was quite busy, Mary contacted me via email, however, near the beginning of March of 2008. Okay, to jml@.com from marye@.net. Subject: last summer's interview. I'm incredibly sorry about my behavior last summer when you came to interview me. I hope you understand that it was no fault of yours, but rather my own problems that led me to act out as I did. I realized that I could have handled the situation more decorously. However, I hope you will forgive me. At the time, I was afraid. You see, for 15 years, I have been haunted by smile.jpg. Smile.dog comes to me in my sleep every night. I know that sounds silly, but it is true. There's an ineffable quantity about my dreams, my nightmares, that makes them completely unlike any real dreams I have ever had. I do not move and I do not speak. Simply look ahead, and the only thing ahead of me is the scene from that horrible picture. I see the beckoning hand, and I see smile.dog. It talks to me. It is not a dog, of course, though I am quite sure what it really is. It tells me it will leave me alone if only I do as it asks. All I must do, it says, spread the word. That is how it phrases its demands. And I know exactly what it means. It wants me to show it to someone else. See, and now we go full circle to spam emails. And I could. The week after my incident, I received in the mail a manila envelope with no return address. Inside was only a 3.5-inch floppy diskette. Without having to check, I knew precisely what was on it. I thought for a long time about my options. I could show it to a stranger, a co-worker. I could even show it to Terrence, as much as the idea disgusted me. But what would happen then? Well, if Smile Dog kept its word, I could sleep. Yet if I lie, what would I do? And who was to say something worse would not come for me if I did as the creature asked? So I did nothing for 15 years, though I kept the diskette hidden amongst my things. Every night for 15 years, Smile.dog has come to me in my sleep and demanded I spread the word. For 15 years I have stood strong, though there have been hard times. Many of my fellow victims on the BBS board where I first encountered Smile.jpg stopped posting. I heard some of them committed suicide. Others remain completely silent, simply disappearing off the face of the web. They are the ones I worry about the most. Visions can cause complete sensory hallucination and personality disorders. So truth in fiction, it also usually makes people totally unable to read or write. That is interesting. So whoever wrote this did some research at least. I sincerely hope you will forgive me, Mr. L. But last summer when you contacted me and my husband about an interview, I was near the breaking point. I decided I was going to give you the floppy diskette. I did not care if Smile Dog was lying or not. I wanted it to end. You were a stranger, someone I had no connection with, and I thought I would not feel sorrow when you took the diskette as part of your research and sealed your fate. Before you arrived, I realized what I was doing. I was plotting to ruin your life. I could not stand the thought, and in fact I still cannot. I am ashamed, Mr. L, and I hope that this warning will dissuade you from further investigation of Smile.jpg. You may in time encounter someone who is, if not weaker than I, then wholly more depraved. Someone who will not hesitate to follow Smile.dog's orders. I'm calling it so many different ways. Smile.dog, Smile.jpg, Smile... Take a pic! This is God on the ceiling, look up and smiled. At the age of 7 I turned 7, turns out I was born and I was... Yes, very good, Shark. You're so masculine, thanks, I'm half man and my father's... I'm also half man and my... You need to stop, you all need to stop. Alright, stop while you're still whole. Sincerely, Mary E. Terrence contacted me later that month with the news that his wife had killed herself while cleaning up the various things he left behind, closing email accounts and the like. He happened above the above message. He was a man in shambles. He wept as he told me to listen to his wife's advice. He had found the diskette. He revealed and burned it until it was nothing but a stinking pile of blackened plastic. The part that most disturbed him, however, was how the diskette had hissed as it melted. That's interesting. Like some sort of animal. He's like here. Like some sort of animal, he said. Okay. I will admit that I was a little uncertain about how to respond to this. At first, I thought perhaps it was a joke, with the couple belatedly playing with the situation in order to get a rise out of Mary E. was indeed dead. There was, of course, no mention of suicide in the article. I decided that for a time at least, I would not further pursue the subject of Smile.jpg, especially since I had finals coming up at the end of May. Priorities, yeah, I get it. But the world has odd ways of testing us. Almost a full year after I returned from my disastrous interview with Mary E., I received another email to jml.com from Elsa here 882. Subject: Smile. Hello. I found your email address through a mailing list. Your profile said you are interested in Smile Dog. I have saw it. It is not as bad as everyone says. I have sent it to you here. Just put it in the word. Smiley face. Final line, chill me to the bone. According to my email client, there was one file attachment called naturally smile.jpg. I considered downloading for some time. It was most likely a fake. I imagine, and even if it weren't, I was never wholly convinced of Smile.jpg's peculiar powers. Mary E's account has shaken me, yes, but she was probably mentally unbalanced anyway. After all, how could a simple image do what Smile.jpg had set to accomplish? What sort of creature was it that could break one's mind with only the power of the eye? And if such things were patently absurd, then why did the legend exist at all? If I downloaded the image, if I looked at it, and the mirror turned out to be correct, this Smile.dog came to me in my dreams demanding I spread the word, what would I do? Would I live my life as Mary had, fighting against the urge to give until I died? Would I simply spread the word eager to be put to rest? And if I chose the latter route, how could I do it? Whom would I burden in turn? If I went through with my earlier intention to write a short article about Smile.jpg, I decided I could attach it as evidence. And anyone who read the article, anyone who took interest, will be affected. And even assuming that Smile.jpg attached to the email was genuine, would I be capricious enough to save myself in that manner? Could I spread the word? Yes. Yes, I could. That is All Dog, which is just 3 pages, rather brief, but pretty decent. You know, it's pretty straightforward. Like it's a very simple concept. It was pretty simple, and the whole plot was that, oh, this creepypasta you're reading is now cursing you with smile dot JPEG, whatever. It was fine. It was fine. Ben Drown, we don't have Ben Drown this tonight, sadly, because it's a very lengthy story with actual video clips, and I could not add it to the whole mix. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wanted to print it. I put it on document. It was like 10 pages, and I think that's not gonna fit at all. I think it's not gonna, no, it could not get in the way. You didn't drown, Ben. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Salgo? Okay, I'm hearing a lot of people go for Salgo. Let's go. Only know it from Salgo text? Yeah, if you don't know, you know all the stored text you may see sometimes online? The one where it just has little symbols going up and down? That is because of Salgo. That's Salgo text or Salgo font. The way that it's phrased like that. 4 pages. Should be good. Don't worry, gamers, he's going to surprise us when Ben drowned after Jet the Killer. He hit it by saying he's saving the best for last. When he's a... Sure, yeah, you can think that. I won't injure your dream. I won't burst your bubble. There might be a Ben drowning inside. Ben, are you in there? Ben, are you there? Damon, can you do something about it, Damon? Please. Damon, I need you to change the channel. Damon, can you please look for the poor little Ben? He's drowning somewhere. Ben. Damon, please do. Damon, I'm asking you very nicely. Can you please? Okay, it's working there. Okay, can you get us Ben? That's not Ben, but we can work with that. Okay, Salgo, or the actual name of the story. He comes. This is the original, or like the most popular entry of what Salgo is. There are many versions of this thing, but it's meant to be its own internet eldritch creature. Salgo was never fully present in any image aside from fan art, but that doesn't count. But the way it was presented in many entries is that it would corrupt the piece of media that mention it or pass through. And usually, like the main feature of that would be the black eyes with bloody tears, which you see a lot in many creepypastas like Sonic.exe, Van Drown, Squidward Suicide. They all get like these hyper realistic eyes with that shed bloody tears. They all link back to Salgo. And if you Google his name, only his name, you're probably going to see a lot of classic comics like Garfield and other stuff that was more popular by then. Just have an adaptation of it where the whole comic just becomes horrible and worse and gibberish just because I said the name. Because yeah, it was some kind of, I guess it also counted as a cognito hazard. I guess it technically counted as that because it would just corrupt anything that reached out to it. So yeah, it's an interesting story, and this is just a more grounded take on that. It's a very grounded version. It's just a simple experience from one person with this whole thing, and it's one of my favorite takes on it. There's so many things, but this one right here, this one that I'm holding right now, is my favorite take of Salgo. Are you ready? Forgive the length of this message. This is the first and possibly the last time I'll have access to a computer, so I thought I would better write this all down while I can and get it to those who should know. I'm leaving town. I don't know where I'm going. I'm just getting as far away as I can. Okay, so as some as you may know, I took out a loan. I opened my own auto shop a little over a year ago. Business has been going decently well. I can't complain. And I've always been grateful to all my customers who have come to me exclusively when God knows there are so many already established places in town. I've been doing well enough that I was able to hire on my buddy, Neil, a few months ago. And he's been working hard and helping out really well, as I always knew he would. Well, I needed to take a day and go to the Lamaze class with Rebecca last month. And so I entrusted the shop to Neil for the morning and most of this afternoon. That's the day I think everything actually started, because when I got back, he seemed to be in a stupor. He was covered in oil. He even had some smear across his face, as if he tried to drink it or something. I told him to go home and clean himself up because we had no clients at the moment. I could take care of anyone who came. Are you not? I'm sorry, but like, if my coworker, if my employee, if I saw my employee just have hints to have drank oil, I would be more concerned that, yeah, take the day off. And like, are you good? Should I call the ambulance? Should I call someone? Shouldn't you do something other than take the day off? Goodbye. I'll leave them alone. I would at least check on them. You don't know if they'll eat a match. I'll assume that the U.S. Army is heading their location. It could be American. Did you eat that? Yeah, I'm thinking like, if it shows hints that they drank it, I probably would try and check on them. I will probably do something about it. This was clearly in America. Yeah, every story here is based on America, except the Russian sleep experiment. All right. He came back 45 minutes later, but he was still much quieter than usual. He worked as well as he ever did, but something just seemed off about him. I asked if anything happened while I was out, and he just shook his head. I asked how many clients we had. He just muttered something unintelligible. I asked him to repeat himself, and to turn and glare at me. At the briefest moment, I could have swore his eyes appeared to be completely black. No iris, no sclera, just utter, all-consuming blackness. I stumbled back and bumped a shelf, dunking things down. When I looked back at him, he was still looking at me, but he didn't seem to be glaring hatefully the way he had before. He just seemed kind of out of it. Just a couple, he answered. Some woman and then tattooed biker type looking dude. I assume one of them must have asked for an oil change, and that's when he spilled it. So I asked if he had any trouble, and he simply shrugged. I looked around at the garage while he was gone, and I saw no traces of an oil spill. So whatever had happened, he must have gotten it all on himself and none of it anywhere else, miraculously. But he seemed reluctant to talk about it, so I didn't press the issue. And we worked it throughout the day. That day and the next were relatively normal, other than him still being awkward and quiet. I asked him if he would like to go out and get us some lunch while I tended the shop, and he said, sure. When he came back, I was busy doing a diagnostic for a client, so he put the food on the counter of the office to wait for me, and he went ahead and ate. I finished up with a customer. We had to keep her car overnight, so I figured just why I kept dying on her. So I asked Neil to give her a ride home, and then I went to grab my food. He brought me some Chinese food and an iced tea, so I opened the soy sauce packet to pour some over my food, when I noticed the strangest thing. It was as if the soy sauce was a living thing, somehow spreading out like dozens of squirmy, inkly black maggots. When it fell into the fried rice and burying itself inside, I took the fork and started to scoop out the rice to look deeper inside, and small smoky tendrils would rise from the rice occasionally and dissipate. I was incredibly hungry at that point, but I was way too creeped out to eat, so I chucked it and the iced tea in the garbage and decided I would just wait till I got home that evening to eat something. I'll prepare my own hands. I've never in my life seen anything remotely like that, and I couldn't even fathom how I would ask Neil if he noticed anything similar. That's gross. Just gross. As cold and distant as he's been lately, I was sure he'd look at me like I was Looney Tunes. Oh man, this is all. So I just shut up about it. That Friday, we went down to the old watering hole, as we always do, to get some drinks and watch the local bands play. And Neil was just as quiet and distant as he had been all week. He's not a bad-looking fellow, though, and so despite him not really going out his way to speak to anyone, a woman went over to where he was sitting and started talking to him, and they ended up leaving together that night. Ooh. Monday morning, I tried breaking the ice by asking how his weekend went. He gave me a nod and muttered, "Alright." I asked him if he got lucky with that young woman I saw him with. And he gave me the smallest grin, which was quite possibly the first grin I've seen on his face in a week, and said, "It went well." I didn't pressure him for details. I knew he would share if he chose to, and his small grin was enough to assuage my worries and lend me some hope that he might get back to his old self soon. The day was relatively busy until about 3 p.m, so I finally had a spare moment to sit in the office and listen to the radio while I waited on the next client. So there I was, leaning back on my chair, with my feet propped up on the desk when I swivel around and look at my bulletin board that sits behind my head with all manner of clippings stuck to it. I had a few Sunday comic strips such as Garfield and Calvin and Hobbes that I would read maybe 100 times since I opened shop there, but that day something was different. The first panel seemed normal, but in each subsequent panel, inky black tendrils crept out of the edges of the frame and from behind the characters. Blood dripped from the ears and eyes and sometimes even their noses, and in each of the strips, one of the characters would say, "He comes." I sat staring in astonishment for a moment before I realized the tendrils were moving ever so slowly, and then each of the characters' head turned ever so slowly towards me, and I threw myself back away from the bulletin board, sliding over my desk and onto the floor. I ran out into the garage and yelled for Neil. I would not be the only one to see this. To my surprise, he had gone. And so I hesitantly walked back to the office and peered inside. The covers were still corrupted, but they no longer appeared to be moving. I crept over to it and reached out to pluck one of the comics free when I noticed an inky black tendrils starting to seep across the page towards where my fingers were, at least 3 times as fast as I had to move that's spelled wrong. As I moved before I jerked my hand away. Nothing good could possibly come from letting that blot of ink touch my skin. Of course, I ripped the entire bulletin board down. I burned it in a tin trash can out back. Okay, that's better. I never spoke of it again. That night, I went home and my wife was already in bed, fast asleep. My mind was racing and I couldn't even bring myself to eat dinner that night. When no one to vent my worries to, I fell into a restless sleep and kept awakening after nightmare after nightmare, seemingly every hour of the night until I just gave up on sleep entirely. That Friday, I went out to the bar again, even though my wife couldn't drink, being pregnant and all, and Neil wasn't really any fun to hang with anymore, and none of my other friends could seem to be a reach. I just needed to get a good buzz and start feeling better. I reckoned. After drowning a couple beers, I excused myself to the restroom when I noticed I was more inebriated than I estimated, so I leaned over to the sink to splash some water onto my face, and that's when I heard it. Like a sheet fabric being dragged across the floor, a voice raps ever so quietly out of the drain. It sounded like it prolonged itself for the longest time until I finally recognized words hitting amongst all those vowels. "He comes!" Cracks appear on the porcelain, snaking out from the ring around the drain. At least they looked like cracks at first, but after a few seconds I recognized them, the same tendrils of corruption I'd seen in the comics earlier that week, snaking their way slowly along. I stumbled backwards out the bathroom door and ran into someone's chest. I turned around and stared up into the pitch black eyes of a 6.5-foot biker with tattoos covering every piece of exposed skin behind his hands and head. I stumbled quickly away from him, and his evil piercing gaze followed me as I retreated through the bar. It felt like a dream, where whenever you're running for your life, it feels like running through quicksand. That's pretty good. As I walked across the room, I noticed the biker wasn't the only one staring at me. It seemed every pair of eyes in the place were focused on me, and more than half of those eyes appeared to be perfectly black, with no hint of iris or sclera. A few lips moved, and I couldn't hear their voices over the sound of the jukebox. I could easily guess that they were saying, "He comes." I didn't get a wink of sleep that night. I haven't been getting much sleep for the past couple of weeks, as a matter of fact. which I'm guessing those of you who have spoken to me recently could have guessed. I keep seeing those pitch black eyes staring at me. I'm afraid every one I see will turn and whisper those words to me, staring deep into my soul and with that evil glare. Every time I go near a sink or to grab a bite to eat, I'm afraid I'll see those inky, snaking tendrils squiggling towards me. Even my wife had seemed cold and distant lately. It's seems pretty hopeless. Title drop, oh god, is gone. Yeah. You remember those comic edits? Okay, where was I? Then tonight, as I'm driving home from work, struggling to keep my eyes open so that I don't drift into oncoming traffic, my cell phone rang, and it was Rebecca. She was on her way to the hospital to have our baby. It was for the first time in 2 weeks. I was actually happy. She was in the labor room strapped to a monitor when I got there, watching for her contractions. She barely noticed when I walked in, but didn't seem startled when I sat down beside her and took her hand in mine. I tried talking to her, but she was unresponsive, and I was so tired I didn't realize I had started to drift off to sleep until the nurses came in and started moving her to the delivery room about half an hour later. I put on my scrubs and a hairnet and went in with her to hold her hand and coach her through like they would train us in La Maze. When she started cursing and screaming, I was prepared for that, as well as her ever-tightening grip on my hand. But when I saw the movement in her tummy, my mind started to reel. The doctor said that the baby was crowning and told her to push. I echoed his orders, and she screamed at me with a voice I couldn't begin to describe. When I looked down at her, she was staring up at me with the same eyes I was seeing on the biker. The same eyes I thought I was seeing on Neil weeks before. I tried to jerk my hand away, but she maintained her grip. Black tar-like blood splashed the front of the doctor's scrubs, but he seemed to pay no heed. When I looked at her belly again, black veins seemed to stand out beneath her skin, pulsating. She continued to stare at me, and she was no longer screaming, just grinning, those obsidian eyes boring into me. To invoke the Nesperian hive mind of chaos, she breathed in a raspy voice. He who waits behind the wall, the doctor continued as he stared down at the child. My child, lying silently, cradled in his blood-stained hands. He looked up and raised the baby, and it appeared to be covered in oozing, inky black liquid, much like that had covered Neil a couple weeks prior. It did not cry out, but it was alive, and it moved when he held it up. When his eyes opened, they were as black as my wife's, as black as the doctor. In unison, they all breathed his name. Salgo. I ripped my hand free from my wife's iron grip and stumbled out of the room, barreling into the nurses passing in the corridor just outside. When I stood up and looked back into the room, I could see the inky black tendrils seeming to extend from the doctor and my newborn across the floor to where I stood. I turned and ran down the hall to the elevator and slammed my finger into the buttons. When I looked back, the tendrils had come into the hallway, yet no one else seemed to notice until it slithered over their feet and up their legs, at which point they abruptly stopped, turned and looked at me with those same obsidian eyes. I abandoned my effort to call the elevator and broke into a panic run for the stairs. I ran down the 15 flights of stairs all the way into the lobby, tore ass out into the parking lot, hopped in my car and started driving. I didn't know where the fuck I was going. I just had to get the fuck away from there. I don't know if I'm going crazy. It certainly seems like it. But I just can't be around anyone I know anymore. They'll have those same eyes and those same dead stares, and even my child. Oh god, my baby. I still saw those eyes stare at me from the cars beside me. By some strange coincidence, the same biker from the previous Friday night at the bar pulled up beside me an hour away from the hospital and followed me for nearly 2 miles. He would turn and stare at me grinning. I couldn't see his eyes, though his sunglasses this time, but I knew it was the same guy. His tattoos seemed to move on their own free will. The flaming skull on his right bicep began bleeding from his eye sockets. As soon as I could, I slammed on my brakes, allowing him to fly past me as I swerved to my left and did a U-turn. I think I lost him. That was about an hour ago. I'm at a motel 3 hours out of town, the first place I found out has Wi-Fi, and I'm tired. I'm shaking and my hand itches where my wife's nails scratch me open. Honestly, I don't know what to do, or who can I turn to. The story will sound insane and I'll probably be institutionalized, and I'm not sure that wouldn't be the best thing for me. I just can't bear to look into those eyes anymore. Every time I see someone new and they stare at me, I start to panic because I just know it's out there looking for me, whatever it is. And even when I lay down and start to drift to sleep, I hear those words. He comes. That is pretty good. That is really good. The start was a little bit weird. Like I think the writer wasn't sure how to. It kept repeating the same adjectives. It kept repeating the same things over and over. But the whole sequence of the hospital is gorgeous. It's really fucking good. It's a really good thing, and it's a really cool concept overall. It's like a god of madness that just chooses to torment. And from the way it was worded, he was the only one who could see it. I remember that story where they made Salgo comic edits, but I didn't know they made stories about it. Yeah, this story that I'm holding right now is the most standard, or like the people that it's like the stepping stone, or like that people just look back on if they want to read a story about Salgo. Ah, here it is. Okay, Damon, put the rake channel on. Put the rake channel on. No, maybe it's a bit. Maybe I need to. Yeah, like I need to. Like. So, there it is. Okay. I thought he was a gardener. Well, maybe he is. You don't know. He lives in the woods. You can easily be a gardener in the woods. Right? If you don't know, rake is mostly familiar for a photo, like a CCTV screenshot, like a camera from security camera in the forest, which is actually meant to be a teaser for a zombie game. It is the one image of a humanoid feature crouched on a corner with bright white eyes. Rake, 3 years ago, had just returned from a trip to Niagara Falls with my family for the 4th of July. We were all very exhausted after a long day of driving. My husband and I put the kids right to bed and called it a night. At about 4 a.m., I woke up thinking my husband had gotten up to use the restroom. I used the moment to steal back the sheets, only to wake him in the process. I apologized and told him I thought he got out of bed. He turned to face me, he gasped, and pulled his feet up. He pulled his feet up from the end of the bed so quickly his knee almost knocked me out of the bed. His knee almost knocked me out. He then grabbed me and said nothing. After adjusting to the dark for half a second, I was able to see what caused the strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting and facing away from us, there was what appeared to be a naked man or large hairless dog of some sort. Its body position was disturbing and unnatural, as if it had been hit by a car or something. For some reason, I was not instantly frightened by it, but more concerned as to its condition. At this point, I was somewhat under the assumption that we were supposed to help him. My husband was peering over his arm and knee, talking to the fetal position, occasionally glancing at me before returning to the creature. In a flurry of motion, the creature scrambled around the side of the bed and crawled quickly in a flailing sort of motion right along the bed until it was less than a foot from my husband's face. The creature was completely silent for about 30 seconds, probably closer to 5, it just seemed like a while, just looking at my husband. The creature then placed its hand on his knee and ran into the hallway leading to the kid's room. I screamed and ran for the light switch, planning to stop him before he hurt my children. When I got to the hallway, the light from the bedroom was enough to see it crouching and hunched over 20 feet away. He turned around and looked directly at me, covered in blood. I flipped the switch on the wall and saw my daughter Clara. The creature ran down the stairs while my husband and I rushed to help our daughter. She was very badly injured and spoke only once more in her short life. She said, "He is the rake." Okay, so we start pretty strong. We start really fucking strong in the story. The whole concept already it's not over. The story's not over, but like just the whole idea of just waking up and just having a guy just sitting there at the edge of your bed. That would fuck with you. That would traumatize you. My husband drove his car into a lake that night while rushing our daughter to the hospital. He did not survive. Oh, should not laugh at that. Should not laugh at that. So the other guy slides up and drop into a water with fun. Yeah, pretty much. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's very serious. People are dead. Did the mom not go with them? Doesn't imply that. It doesn't imply that she did, actually. The creature ran down the stairs, la 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 la. My husband drove his car into a lake that night while rushing our daughter to the hospital. He did not survive. If she was in the car, she would have said we. So yeah, apparently she didn't? Okay. I'm sure if I would not want to stay home. Yeah, I know, exactly. Okay. Being a small town, news got around pretty quickly. The police were helpful at first, and the local newspaper took a lot of interest as well. However, the story was never published, and the local television news never followed up either. For several months, my son Justin and I stayed in a hotel near my parents' house. After I decided to return home, I began looking for answers myself. I eventually located a man in the next town over who had a similar story. We got in contact and began talking about our experiences. He knew of two other people in New York who had seen the creature we now refer to as the Rake. It took the four of us about 2 solid years of hunting on the internet and writing letters to come up with a small collection of what we believed to be accounts of the Rake. None of them gave any details, history, or follow-up. One journal had an entry involving the creature in its first 3 pages, and never mentioned it again. The ship logs explained nothing of the encounter, saying only that they were told to leave by the Rake. That was the last entry in the log. However, many instances where the creature's visit was one of a series of visits with the same person, multiple people have also mentioned being spoken to, my daughter included. This led to us to wonder if the Rake had visited any of us before our last encounter. I set up a digital recorder near my bed and left it running all night, every night for 2 weeks. I would literally scan through the sounds of me rolling around in my bed each day when I woke up. By the end of the 2nd week, I was quite used to the occasional sound of sleep while blurring through the recording at 8 times the normal speed. This still took almost an hour every day. On the very first day of the 3rd week, I thought I heard something different. What I found was a shrill voice. It was the Rake. I can't listen to it long enough and even begin to transcribe it. I haven't let anyone listen to it yet. All I know is that I've heard it before, and I now believe that it spoke when it was sitting in front of my husband. I don't remember hearing anything at the time, but for some reason the voice on the recording immediately brings me back to that moment. The thoughts that must have gone through my daughter's head makes me very upset. I have not seen the Rake since he ruined my life, but I know that he has been in my room while I slept. I know and fear that one night I'll wake up to see him staring at me. Oh, that's it. That's a good setup. It's not a full fleshed out thing. So that's not bad, but just it has a good build up, but it just doesn't. I wanted more. Okay, next story. Which bye, Rake. Bye. Alright, next. Do not perceive me, I perceive you. I can look at you. I'm looking at you very directly. I'm looking at you with my gay eyes. You're gonna wet the bed tonight. You're gonna piss yourself tonight, little baby man. Little baby, little baby man. Alright. Damon, would you mind? Damon, could you please switch the channel? Damon, can you do that thing? I know the VCR is a little bit busted, but can you? Your sheets are nothing. Your bladder serves zero purpose. Damon, come on, Damon, please. Almost. I think you got it. I think you got it, Damon. Damon, cast your magic. Cast your magics. Switch the channel and abandoned by Disney. Let's go. Okay. Some of you have heard that the Disney Corporation is responsible for at least one real live ghost town. Disney built the Treasure Island Resort in Baker's Bay in the Bahamas. It didn't start as a ghost town. Disney's cruise ships could actually stop at the resort and leave tourists there to relax in luxury. That is a fact, look it up. Disney blew $30 million on the place. Yes, $30 million. Then they abandoned it. Disney blamed the shallow waters, too shallow for their ships to safely operate. And there was even blame cast on the workers, saying that since they were from the Bahamas, they were too lazy to work on regular schedule. That's where the factual nature of the story ends. It wasn't because of sand, and it obviously wasn't because foreigners are lazy. Both are convenient excuses. No, I sincerely doubt those reasons were legitimate. Why don't I buy the official story? Because of Mowgli's palace. Near the beachside city on Emerald Isle in North Carolina, Disney began construction on Mowgli's palace in the late 1990s. The concept was a jungle-themed resort with a large, you guessed it, palace in the center of the whole thing. If you're unfamiliar with the character of Mowgli, then you might remember the story of the Jungle Book. If you haven't seen it anywhere else, you know it's a Disney cartoon from decades past. Mowgli is an abandoned child in the jungle, essentially raised by animals and simultaneously threatened, pursued by other animals. Mowgli's palace was a controversial undertaking from the start. Disney bought up a ton of high-priced land for the project. There was actually a scandal surrounding some of the purchases. The local government claimed eminent domain on people's homes, then turned around and sold the properties to Disney. At one point, a home that had just been constructed was immediately condemned with little to no explanation. The land grabbed by the government was supposedly for some fictional highway project. Knowing full well what was going on, people started calling it Mickey Mouse Highway. Then there was a concept art. A group of stuffed shirts from Disney Corporation actually held a city meeting. They intended to sell everyone on how lucrative this project was going to be for everyone. When they showed the concept art, the gigantic Indian palace, surrounded by jungle, staffed with men and women in loincloths and a tribal gear, well, suffice to say, everyone flipped their shit. Yeah, it's not looking good. It's really not looking good. We only 10-hour reading of Ben Drown. Okay, I'll do it for next occasion. Okay, let's creepypasta read, which I don't know if I'll be able to do it so easily. Isn't there like a really good game about this? Yeah, there's a fan game. Okay, there's a game called Five Nights at Treasure Island, which is inspired by this, and it plays like a FNAF game. It's alright. How many copypasta tiers did I miss? Three, but they're brief. They were pretty short, honestly. So right now I'm getting into the meat, the meat, the juice of it. I saw another one. No, I don't remember another one. Yeah, this is the fourth story. We read The Rake, which was a pretty simple setup type of thing. We read Salgo, which was actually pretty decent. And then we read Smile That Dog, which was, well, all of them were like pretty straightforward and simple. And there's a Rake. That's fine. Don't worry. This is a good one. This is a good one. This is lengthy. I have to take a break and recover so I can fully read all of this because it's a lot. Okay. One member of the crowd tried to storm the stage, but he was quickly subdued by security after he managed to break one of the presentation boards over his knee. Nice. Disney took that committee and essentially broke it over its knee as well. The houses were raised, the land was clear. There wasn't a damn thing anyone could do or say about it. Local TV and newspapers were against the resort at the beginning, but some insane connection between Disney's media holdings and the local venues came into play, and their opinions turned on a dime. So anyway, Treasure Island, the Bahamas, Disney sunk those millions in and then split. The same thing happened with Mowgli's palace. Construction was complete. Visitors actually stayed at the resort. The surrounding communities were flooded with traffic and the usual annoyances associated with an influx of lost and irate tourists. Then it all just stopped. Disney shut it down and nobody knew what the hell to think. They were pretty happy about it. Disney's loss was pretty hilarious and wonderful to a large group of folks who didn't want this in the first place. We love seeing a corporation lose. Also, yeah, thank you for stopping by, F2. This is a rare event because I don't use Twitch a lot these days, which makes it more special that you're here. I appreciate it a lot. I'm really happy you're present. I'm glad so many people are here to watch it because it's exciting. It's a whole new thing that I've been very brand new for me as well. All right. I honestly didn't give the place another thought since hearing it close over a decade ago. I lived maybe 4 hours from Emerald Isle, so really I only heard the rumblings and didn't experience any of it firsthand. Then I read this article from someone who had explored the Treasure Island resort and posted a whole blog about all the crazy shit he found there. Stuff just left behind. Things smashed, defaced, probably ruined by disgruntled former employees who had lost their jobs. Hell, the locals from all around probably had a hand in wrecking that place. People there felt just as angry about Treasure Island as folks here did about Mowgli's Palace. Plus, there were rumors that Disney had released their aquarium stock into local waters when they closed, including sharks. Jesus! Who wouldn't want to take away a few swings at some merchandise after that? Well, what I'm getting at is that this blog about Treasure Island got me thinking. Even though many years have passed since its closing, I figured it might be cool to do some urban exploration at Mowgli's Palace. Take some photos, write about my experience, and probably see if there was anything I could take home as a memento. Never do urban explorations alone. They're really fucking dangerous. Like, you have no idea what you can come across especially if you're alone. And I'm not talking supernatural. I'm not talking about supernatural shit. I'm just talking overall. It is dangerous as shit. I'm going to say I wasted no time in getting there, because honestly it took me another year after I first found that Treasure Island article to get around and going up to Emerald Isle. Over the course of that year, I did a lot of research on the Palace Resort, or rather, I tried to. Naturally, no official Disney site or research made any mention of the place that had been scrubbed clean. Even odder, however, was that nobody before myself had apparently thought to blog about the place, or even post a photo. No local TV or newspaper sites had one word about the place, though that was to be expected since they all had swung Disney's way. They wouldn't be out there lauding their embarrassment, you know? Recently, I learned that corporations can actually ask Google, for example, to remove the links from search results, basically for no good reason. Looking back, it's probably not that nobody spoke of the resort, but rather their words were made inaccessible. So in the end, I could barely find the place. All I had to go on was an old as hell map I would receive in the mail back in the 90s. It was a promotional item sent out to people who had recently been to Disney World, and I guess since I had been there in the late 80s, that was recent. I didn't really intend to hang on to. It just got shoved in with my books and comics from childhood. I would only remember it months into my research. Even then, it took me another few weeks to locate the storage bin my parents had shoved it all into. But I did find it. Locals were no help, as most were transplants who had moved to the beach in recent years, or old residents who just sneered at me and made rude gestures the second I managed to say, "Where would I find Mowgli's?" The drive took me through an inordinately long corridor of overgrowth, tropical plants that had run rampant and overpopulated the area, mixed with the native species of flora that actually belonged there and had tried to reclaim the land. I was in awe when I reached the front gates of the resort. Tremendous, monolithic wooden gates whose supported to either side looked like they must have been cut from giant sequoias. The gate itself had been gouged in several places by woodpeckers and eaten away at the base by burrowing insects. Hanging on the gate was a sheet of metal, some random scrap with hand-painted letters scrawled in black, "Abandoned by Disney." Clearly, the handiwork of some past local or an employee who wanted to make some small protest. The gates were open enough to walk through, but not drive, so grabbing my digital camera and the map, whose flip side show a layout of the resort, I set off on foot. The inner grounds of the place were just as overgrown as the entryway. Palm trees stood untended and ragged among piles of their own coconuts. Banana plants similarly stood in their own stinking, bug-riddled refuse. It was a sort of clash between order and chaos, as carefully planted rows of perennial flowers mixed with obnoxious tall weeds and stinking blackened mushrooms. All that remained of any outdoor structures were broken, rotting wood, and various charred bits of unidentifiable material. What was most likely an information booth or an outdoor bar was now simply a pile of assorted debris chopped up by past vandalism and ravaged by weather. The most interesting thing on the grounds was a statue of Baloo, the friendly bear from the Jungle Book, which stood in a sort of courtyard in front of the main building. He was frozen in a jovial wave towards no one, staring into empty space with a silly toothy grin as bird shit covered the whole swaths of his fur, the vines ensnared his platform. I approached the main building, the palace, only to find the outside of the building covered in graffiti where the original paint had peeled and chipped away. The front doors were just open. They had been taken off their hinges and were stolen. Above the front doors of the gaping maw where they had been, someone had once again painted "Abandoned by Disney." I wish I could tell you about all the awesome stuff I saw inside the palace. Forgotten statues abandoned by cash registers, a full-fledged secret society of homeless bums, but no. The inside of the building was so stark, so bare, that I actually think people had stolen the molding off the walls. Anything that was too big to steal, counters, desks, giant fake trees, they were all resting amid this empty echo chamber that amplified my every step like a slow rat-a-tat of a machine gun. I checked the floor plan and headed to all locations that might seem in any way interesting. The kitchen was, as you would imagine, an industrial food prep area with all the appliances and space, not Spencer's fare. Every glass surface was broken, every door knocked off its hinges, every metal surface kicked and dented. The entire place smelled like a very old piss. The huge freezer, not even remotely cool now, had row upon row of empty shelf space. Hooks hung from the ceiling, probably for hanging cuts of meat, and as I stood inside for a moment, I noticed they were swinging. Each hook swung in a random direction, but their movements were so slow and small that it was almost impossible to see. I figured it had been caused by my footsteps, so I stopped one from swinging by clutching it in my fist, then carefully letting go. But within seconds, it started to swing once more. The bathrooms were in much the same state as the rest of the place. Just like the Treasure Island Resort, someone had methodically smashed each porcelain commode with coconuts and other implements. There was about half an inch of rancid, stinking, stagnant water on the floor, so I didn't stay there very long. What's odd is that the toilets and the sinks, and the bidets in the ladies' room, yes, I went there, all dripped, leaked, or just ran freely. It seemed to me that they should have shut the water off long ago. There were plenty of rooms in the resort, but naturally I didn't have time to look through them. The few I did peer into were similarly wrecked, and didn't expect to find anything there. I thought there was actually a television or radio in one room, as I really think I heard a quiet conversation coming out. Though it was like a whisper, probably my own breathing echoing in the silence, or just another case of the sound of flowing water playing tricks on my mind. This is what it sounded like. I didn't believe it. I didn't know what. Your father told you. An unknown reply, or possibly just weeping. I would be more wary that if I heard that. I would be more wary if I heard a conversation in an abandoned place. Because I don't think electronics would work in a place like this by now, so... I know, that sounds ridiculous. I'm just telling you what I experienced. Why I thought there might have been something running in that room, or worse. Some vagrants who had holed up there and probably would have knifed me. Yeah. At the front doors of the palace, I figured I hadn't found anything of note and had wasted the trip. As I looked out the door, I noticed something interesting in the courtyard that I had apparently missed. Something would have given me at least one thing to show for all my trouble, even if it was just a photograph. There was a lifelike statue of a python, maybe 8 feet long, coiled up and sunning itself on a pedestal right in the center of the area. It was almost time for the sun to start setting, so the light fell onto the object in the perfect way for a photograph. I approached the python and snapped a photo. Then I stood on my toes and snapped another. I moved closer again to get the details on its face. Slowly, casually, the python lifted its head, looked directly into my eyes, turned and slithered off the pedestal across the grass and into the trees. Disney had released all their exotic animals onto the grounds, right there on my floor pan. Yeah, right there on my floor pan was the reptile house. I should have known. I read about a shark at Treasure Island, and I should have known they'd done this. I was dumbfounded, just utterly stupefied. My mouth must have been hanging open for the longest time before I came back to Earth and snapped it shut. I blinked a few times and backed away from where the snake had been, back toward the palace. Even though it was totally gone, I still wasn't taking any chances and backed my way into the building. I looked for a place to sit down, as my legs were feeling a bit like jelly at this point. Of course, there was no place to sit down unless I wanted to recline on the broken glass and dead leaf carpet, or haul myself onto a desk of questionable reliability. I had seen some stairs near the palace lobby and decided to go have a seat there until I feel better. Their staircase was far enough away from the front of the building to relatively clean, save for a startling accumulation of dust. I pulled a wedge of metal off the wall, once again painted with the abandoned by Disney motto I've become accustomed to. I placed the wedge on the stairs and sat on it to keep at least somewhat clean. Their stairway led downward below ground level. Using my camera to flash as a sort of improvised flashlight, I could see that the staircase ended in a metal mesh door with a padlock. A sign on the door, a real sign, read, "Mascots only, thank you." This perked up my spirits a little bit for two reasons. One, a mascots only area would have definitely had some interesting stuff back in the day. Two, the padlock was still in place. Nobody had gone down there. Not the vandals, not the looters. Nobody. It was the one place I could actually explore and perhaps find something interesting to photograph or wantonly steal. I had come to the palace essentially agreeing with myself that it was okay to take anything I wanted because, hey, abandoned. It didn't take much to bust the lock. Well, actually that's wrong. It didn't take much to bust the metal plate off the wall that the padlock was hooked to. Time and decay had done most of the work for me. And I was able to bend the metal plate enough to pull the screws out of the wall, something nobody else had apparently thought of, or hadn't been able to do at the time. The mascots only area was a startling and very welcome change from the rest of the building I've seen. For one, every second or third fluorescent light overhead was illuminated, even though they flickered and faded randomly. Also, nothing had been stolen or broken, even if age and exposure were definitely taking their toll. Tables had notepads and pens. There were clocks, even a punching clock on the wall, complete with filled out time cards. Chairs were scattered around there, and even a small break room with an all static filled television and long rotted out food and drink on the counters. It was like one of those post-apocalypse movies where everything is left in a state of evacuation. As I walked the maze-like sub-basement hallways of the mascot-only areas, the sights just became more and more interesting. As I went further, desks and tables were knocked over, paper scattered and almost melted with the damp floor, and a large carpet of mold was slowly overtaking the real rotting crimson floor covering. Everything was just sort of squishy. Anything would disintegrate into mush when it applied even the least amount of force, and clothing items hanging on hooks in one of the rooms simply fell to moist threads if I tried to unhook them. And the fact, okay, you stop and think. He just said that looks like nobody broke into this place. Yet when he goes in, the desks are scattered, like someone threw them. It does not inspire trust. Like if you say that, oh, nobody's been here, like nobody got in here, but there are signs that there was a commotion or like struggle. It's not a good sign. It's really not a good sign. Okay, one thing that annoyed me was the light was becoming more sparse and unreliable as I went further into the dank, suffocating depths of the place. Eventually, I reached a black and yellow striped door with the words Character Prep 1 stenciled on it. Nobody's been here. I said that there's signs of something being. Yeah, exactly. The door wouldn't open at first. I figured this was probably where the costumes were kept, and I definitely wanted to photograph that twisted, stinky mess. Try as I might, whatever angle or trick I tried, the door wouldn't budge. That is, until I gave up and started to walk away. That was when there was a slight popping sound and the door creaked open slowly. Run. Fucking run. Inside, the room was completely dark. Pitch black. I used a camera flash to look for a light switch in the wall to by the door. But there was nothing. Yeah, like, Okay. As I made my search, I was jarred out of my sense of excitement by a loud electrical buzz. Rows of light overhead suddenly flashed alive, flickering and fading in and out like the rest I had passed. It took a second for my eyes to adjust, and it seemed like the light was going to just keep getting brighter until all the bulbs exploded. But just when I thought it would reach the critical stage, the lights dim, a bit and steady. The room was exactly as I had pictured it. Various Disney costumes hang on the walls, fully put together like a strange cartoon cadavers hung from invisible nooses. There was an entire rack of loincloths and native clothes of hangers towards the back. The races aisle. What I found odd, and what I wanted to photograph right away, was a Mickey Mouse costume at the center of the room. Unlike the other costumes, it was laying on its back in the center of the floor like a murder victim. The fur on the costume was rotting and shedding, creating bare patches. What was even odder, however, was the coloring of the costume. It was like a photo, negative of the actual Mickey Mouse. Black where it should be white, and white where it should be black. His normal red overalls were light blue. The side was off-putting enough that I actually put off photographing the thing until last. Took a picture of the costumes hanging on the walls. Upward angles, downward angles, side shots to show an entire row of frozen, putrid cartoon faces, some with plastic eyes missing. Then, I decided to stage a shot. Just one of the bedraggled character heads on the slick, grimy floor. I reached for the headpiece of a Donald Duck costume and carefully removed it so the thing wouldn't fall apart on my hands. As I looked into the face of the wide-eyed, moldering head, a loud clattering noise sound made jump with fright. I looked down at my feet, and there between my shoes was a human skull. It had fallen out of the mascot head and shattered into pieces at my feet. Only the empty face and a lower jaw remained, staring up at me. I dropped the dog head immediately, as you would expect, and moved for the door. As I stood in the doorway, I looked back at the skull on the floor. I had to take a picture of it, you know? I had to. For any number of reasons that may seem silly, but only if you don't think it through. I would need proof of what happened, especially if Disney was going to somehow make this go away. I had no doubt in my mind, right from the start, that even if it was just gross negligence, Disney was responsible for this. That's when Mickey, that photo negative opposite Mickey in the middle of the floor, started to get up. Hello. Hi, you just picked up right where we're going to something very interesting, the very climax of the story, and it's getting really good. First sitting up, then climbing to its feet. The Mickey Mouse costume, or whoever was inside of it, stood there at the center of the room. Its fake face just staring directly at me as I mumbled no over and over and over. With shaking hands, a violently thrashing heart, and legs that had once again turned to jelly, I managed to lift the camera and aim it at the opposite creature, now quietly sizing me up. The digital camera screen displayed only dead pixels in the shape of the thing. It was a perfect silhouette of the Mickey costume. As the camera moved in my unsteady hands, the dead pixels spread, marring the screen whenever Mickey's outline moved too. Then the camera died, went blank and quiet and broken. I raised my eyes once again to the Mickey Mouse costume. "Hey," said in a hushed voice, reverted but perfectly executed to Mickey Mouse. "Wanna see my head come off?" It started to pull at its own head, working its clumsy, glove-clad fingers around its neck with clawing, impatient movements, similar to a wounded man trying to pull himself free from a predator's jaws. As it worked its digits into its neck, so much blood. So much thick, chunky yellow blood. I turned away as I heard a sickening tearing of cloth and flesh, only cared about getting away. Above the doorway, out of this room, I saw the final message clawed into the metal with bone and fingernail. Abandoned by God. I never got the pictures out of the camera. I never wrote the blog entry about it. After I ran from the place, fled for my sanity, if not for my very life, I knew why Disney didn't want anyone to know about this place. They didn't want anyone like me getting in. They didn't want anything like that getting out. It's this peak. I don't know what it's peak. It's good. This is good shit. This is awesome. This is so fucking good. This is a really cool story. The whole concept is just amazing. I love it so fucking much. Like I said, this is one of my favorites, and I'm so glad that this is one of the first things I read when I first came across creepypastas. Yeah, cinema, peak, good shit. This is good shit. This is like really good shit. Hi, how are you? Are you enjoying the stream right now? Are you enjoying that I'm looking straight at you? I'm looking directly at you. How was your day? How has your day, man? Are you enjoying this? Are you good enjoy today? Is this good for you? Is it good? A lot of budget, a lot of production went into this. I see that the boats are coming through. I see that people have picked Squidward Suicide. We're about to get into that. So right now, Damon, could you turn off the switch the channel? Thank you. Okay, can you tune us into Squidward Red Mist? People call it Red Mist now today because it appeared. Apparently, okay. I want to go in attention in a hot second. Okay, Damon, come on. There it is. Our depressed suicidal squid. Okay. I have 2 pages here. It's just 2 pages. Short enough. Alright. Squidward Suicide is part of the many stories that are about like lost episodes, if not the original creepypasta about lost episodes. There's a whole category of type of creepypasta. You have like the characters, which, you know, Jeff the Killer, Eyeless Jack, Slenderman, all of those that are like iconic and stand out just because of who they are. You have the video game ones, just the cursed video games, where it's just like, oh, it looked at me and its eyes bloodshot red, and it, you know, like a bootleg cursed version that you found on a garage sale, and then you died. But then on the other end, there's the lost episodes. A lot of people go into many concepts for just many cartoons that you were raised with, and they just make a fucked up entry about it. They just say, oh, there's a lost episode where the character died, and it was very realistic, and it was very gory, and everyone died, and everyone suffered, and if you look at it, you'll die. Yeah, it's that like that. But Squidward Suicide is the OG Squidward Suicide, and along with other ones, it's the original. It's just 2 pages long, but you know, I think it's just, I have to bring this up. I had to talk about this one because it's one of the original ones. Squidward Suicide. I just want to start off by saying, if you want an answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There just isn't one. I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios for a year in 2005 for my degree in animation. It wasn't paid, of course, most internships aren't, but it did have some perks beyond education. To adults, it might not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would go crazy over it. Now, since I worked directly with the editors and animators, I got to view the new episodes days before they air. I'll get into this. Music is not really too aggressive for this. I'll get right to it without giving too many unnecessary details. They had very recently made the SpongeBob movie, and the entire staff was somewhat sapped of creativity, so it took them longer to start up the new season. That is true. That is true. The original creator and writers, the original team for the show, wanted to just send off the show. Spider's just going, just dangling in front of me with the original team for SpongeBob wanted to just make like 4-3 seasons and then put an end to it with a movie, like it was going to be the final. But of course, because it was such a grossly successful show, Nickelodeon did not allow that. But the original team retired after the movie, so it kind of checks out with this, with the events of this. Alright. The delay lasted longer for upsetting reasons. There was a problem with the series' 4 premiere that set everyone and everything back for several months. Me and 2 other interns were in the edit room, along with the lead animators and sound editors for the final cut. We received a copy that was supposed to be a Fear of the Krabby Patty and gathered around the screen to watch. Now, given that it isn't final, yet animators often put up a mock little title card, sort of an inside joke for us, with funny, oftentimes lewd titles, such as How Sex Doesn't Work, instead of Rockabye by Valve, when SpongeBob and Patrick adopt a sea scallop. Nothing particularly funny, but work-related chuckles. So when we saw the title card, Squidward's Suicide, we didn't think it more than a morbid joke. But the interns did a small throat laugh at it. The happy-go-lucky music plays as is normal. The story began with Squidward practicing his clarinet, getting a few sour notes like normal. We hear SpongeBob laughing outside and Squidward stops, yelling at him to keep it down as he has a concert that night and needs to practice. SpongeBob says okay and goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubble splash screen comes up and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things begin to seem off. Yeah, it's a good build up so far, good build up. While playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't. At this point, sound is synced up with the animation, so yes, that's not common. But when he stops playing, the sound finishes as if the skip never happened. There's a slight murmuring in the crowd before they begin to boo him. Not normal cartoon booing that is common in the show, but you could very clearly hear malice in it. Squidward in full frame and looks visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd, with SpongeBob in the center frame, and he too is booing, very much unlike him. That isn't the oddest thing though. What is odd is everyone had hyper-realistic There it is. There it is. Raw, unapologetic, hyper-realistic eyes term. Use as God intended. There it is. There it fucking is. Oh my god, everyone just makes it like, you say jokingly, but here it is. Here's the father of all. Oh, that's funny. That's funny that you have to read that unironically. Very detailed. Clearly not shots of real people's eyes, but something a bit more real than CGI. The pupils were red, some of us looked at each other, obviously confused. But since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. What do you mean? Children are gonna love this. The shot goes to Squidward, sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very forlorn. The view out of his porthole window is of a night sky, so it isn't very long after the concert. The unsettling part is at this point there is no sound. Literally no sound. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, though their status showed them working perfectly. He just sat there, blinking in this silence for about 30 seconds. Then he started to sob softly. He put his hands, tentacles, over his eyes and cried quietly for a full minute. All the while, a sound in the background very slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through the forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom in on his face. By slow, I mean it's only noticeable if you look at the shots 10 seconds apart side by side. His sobbing gets louder, more full of hurt, and page. Oh my, wait, wow, who rated it? Oh my, oh shit, hello, was in the middle of, oh my, hey, thank you. We're under attack. Oh, it's so interesting that you see me this way. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. So what's going on right now? Yeah, I was really unexpected. Odds. Thank you so much. Take a quick pause because yeah, we're I'm in the middle of reading creepypastas, as the title says. I sort of went a bit crazy with the whole background. I got TK to 3D model this whole setup. I'm using a blanket as a green screen. This is the first time I've ever used a green screen, and this is the most formal I've ever dressed for anything. I'll go back a bit on the paragraph so I can catch people up. Thank you so much. Thank you so fucking much, Odds. I hope I hope you can stick around to hear some of these because they're a doozy. Like this is some stuff that people were raised with, myself included. So yeah, right now we are reading Squidward's Suicide. If you want to catch up, I'm gonna go back a bit because it's just 2 pages. We can do that. So yeah, like I mentioned as well, Jeff the Killer, the original creepypasta of Jeff the Killer, is gonna be saved for last. We're gonna read it as the last thing. So yeah, right now we're in Squidward's Suicide. I'm gonna go back a bit to where the phrase hyper-realistic eyes shows up. So yeah, again, thank you so much. I was not paying attention. I was too focused reading, so I'm gonna get back to that. But yeah, thank you. I cannot say it enough. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to it. Okay, the bubble splash screen comes up, and we see the ending of the Squidward's concert. This is when things begin to seem off. While playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't. At this point, sound is synced up with animation, so yes, that's not common. But when he stops playing, the sound finishes as if the skip never happened. There's light murmuring in the crowd before they begin to boo him. Not normal cartoon boo him, that is common in the show, but you could very clearly hear malice in it. Squidward's in full frame and looks visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd, with SpongeBob in center frame, and he too is booing, very much unlike him. That isn't the oddest thing though. What is odd is everyone had hyper-realistic eyes. Very detailed, clearly not shots of real people's eyes, but something about more real than CGI. Yeah, there it is. The pupils were red, some of us looked at each other, obviously confused, but since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of the bed, looking very forlorn. The view of his porthole window is of a night sky, so it isn't very long after the concert. The unsettling part is at this point there is no sound. Literally no sound. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, though their status showed them working perfectly. He just sat there, blinking, and this silent for about 30 seconds, and he started to sob softly. He put his hands, or tentacles, over his eyes and cried quietly for a full minute. All the while, a sound in the background very slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through a forest. The screen slowly begins to zoom on his face. By slow, I mean it's only noticeable if you look at shots 10 seconds apart from side by side. His sobbing gets louder, more full of hurt and anger. The screen then twitches a bit, as if it twists on itself for a split second, then back to normal. The wind through the trees sound gets slowly louder and more severe, as if a storm is brewing somewhere. The eerie part is this sound, and Squidward's sobbing sounded real. As if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, but as if the speakers were holes the sound was coming through from the other side. As good as sound as the studio likes to have, they don't purchase the equipment to be that good to produce sound of that quality. Below the sound of the wind and sobbing, very faint, something sounded like laughing. It came at odd intervals and never lasted more than a second, so you had a hard time pinning it. We watched the show twice, so part of me thinks sound too specific, but I had time to think about them. After 30 seconds of this, the screen blurred and twitched violently, and something flashed over the screen, as if a single frame was replaced. The lead animation editor paused and rewound frame by frame. What we saw was horrible. It was a still photo of a dead child. Oh, he couldn't have been more than 6. The face was mangled and bloody, one eye dangling over his... Oh my god! One eye dangling over his upturned face popped. He was laying down, his stomach crudely cut open, and his entrails laying beside him. Jesus Christ! I forgot all this! I forgot there was no chill. He was laying on some pavement that was probably a road. Calm down! Jesus, Squidward! I forgot that it had that! Oh my god. Hang on. The most upsetting part was there was a shadow of the photographer. There was no crime tape, no evidence tags or markers, and the angle was completely off for a shot designed to be evidence. It would seem the photographer was the same person responsible for the child's death. We were of course mortified, but pressed on, hoping that it was just a sick joke. I don't know how much of a joke you can do with that. The screen flipped back to Squidward, still sobbing, louder than before, and half body in frame. There was now what appeared to be blood running down his face from his eyes. The blood was also done in a hyper-realistic style. Looking as if you touched it, you would get blood on your fingers. The wind sounded out as if it were that of a gale blowing through the forest. There were even snapping sounds of branches, the laughing, a deep baritone lasting at longer intervals and coming more frequently. After about 20 seconds, the screen again twisted and showed a single frame photo. The editor was reluctant to go back, we all were, but he knew he had to. This time the photo was of that what appeared to be a little girl, no older than the first child. She was laying on her stomach, her barrettes in a pool of blood next to her. Her left eye was popped out and popped, naked except for underpants. Her entrails were Jesus! Her entrails were piled on top of her above another crude cut along her back. Again, the body of the three and the photographer's shadow was visible, very similar in size and the shape of the first. Had to choke back, bomb it, and one intern, the only female in the room, ran out. The show resumed. I'm missing a page apparently. Just here somewhere. Yeah, odds attack me. I'm missing a page. Where is it? Oh. No. Oh shit. Oh god, where is the page? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to improvise. I'm gonna have to read it through from the... I know. The show. Okay, here. Had to choke back vomit and one enter. The only female in the room ran out. The show resumed. About 5 seconds after the second photo played, Squidward went silent. All sound cut out, like it did when the scene started. He put his tentacles down, and his eyes were now done in hyper-realism, like... I get it, okay, I get it. They were bleeding, bloodshot and pulsating. He just stared at the screen, as if watching the viewer. After about 10 seconds, he started sobbing, this time not covering his eyes. The sound was piercing and loud. The most fear-inducing thing of all things was this sobbing was mixed with screams. Tears and blood were dripping down his face at a heavy rate. The wind sound came back, and so did the deep voice laughing. This time with a still photo that lasted for 5-second frames. Then we was supposed to stop it on the 4th and backed up. This time was a photo of a boy the same age, but the scene was different. His entrails were being pulled out from the stomach by a large hand. The right eye popped and dangling, blood trickling. Why? The animator proceeded. The next frame was different, but we couldn't tell how. He continued the next image, and it was the same thing. He then went back to the first and played them quicker, and I lost it. I vomited on the floor. The animation sounded as gasping at the screen. The 5 frames were not 5 different photos. They were framed from a video. We saw the hand slowly lift out the guts. We saw the kid's eyes focus on it. We even saw 2 frames of the kids beginning to blink. Ugh. The lead sound editor told us to stop. He had to call it in the creator to see Mr. Hillenberg arrive within about 15 minutes. He was confused as to why he had been called down, so the editor just continued the episode. Once the next few frames were shown, all screaming and sound again stopped. Squidward just staring at the viewer. His face taking out the full frame for about 3 seconds. The shot quickly panned out. That deep voice said, "Do it." And we saw shotgun and Squidward. Is it? He immediately puts the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger. Realistic blood and brain matter splatters on the wall behind him as his bed, and he flies back with force. The last 5 seconds of the episode show his body on the bed on its side, one eye dangling from what's left of his head above the floor, staring blankly at it. Then the episode ends. This is a. I forgot how intense this one got. And it's not that scary. It just goes into a lot of descriptions about gore. So it's just like, wow, I forgot how vicious this author was. Mr. Hillenberg was obviously angry at this. He demanded to know what the hell was going on. Most people left the room at this point, so it was just a handful of us left to watch it again. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the entirety of it in my mind and caused me horrible nightmares. I'm sorry I stayed. The only theory we could think of was that the file had been edited by someone in the chain from drawing studio to here. The CTO was called in to find out when it would happen. Analysis of the file did show it was mixed with new material. However, the timestamp of the chain was a mere 24 seconds before we began viewing at it. That's weird. All the equipment involved was examined for foreign software and hardware, as well as glitches, such as if the timestamp was showing us the wrong time. But everything checked out fine. We didn't know what happened, and to this day, nobody does. There was an investigation due to the nature of the photos, but nothing came out of it. No child scene was identified, but no clues were gathered from the data involved, nor physical clues from the photos. I never believed in unexplainable phenomena before, but now that I've had something happen to me and can't prove anything about it beyond anecdotal evidence, I think twice about things. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to end it. It just leaves you thinking. It doesn't give you an explanation at all. And I forgot how gory it got. It was a bit of a surprise at that. But well, I know what I was going into when the title of the story is Squidward Suicide, but I completely forgot it was that messed up. Yeah, that was Squidward Suicide, which pretty fucked up. But yeah, it's weird because it has moments where it's just like goofy, where it's like, oh, it was hyper realistic eyes, and it started like sounding real. Like that part sounds very goofy, but the way that they describe the whole murder cases and the fact that there's no explanation for them and the little details that they add, like, oh, it was modified like 24 seconds ago, it adds more mystery, and it's a really cool touch, and it's a really cool mystery aspect to it. Okay, so let's put Squidward down. Bye, Squidward. Okay, Damon, summon the next story, which is Damon, come on, Damon. There it is. Damon summoned my dad. Sorry, we can do miracles. I read Russian Sleep Experiment so long ago, I thought it was a real at the time. Yeah, that's okay. Russian Sleep Experiment, it's a really cool concept overall because it dives into actual conspiracy theories. It looks incredibly plausible, and I think there was inspired by something along the lines of what happened with the story. Like, of course, it's like just a dramatization, but there was a lot of rumors about people actually testing how long can you prepare someone with no sleep at all. Like, they were like testing people's endurance and a whole new chemical or something to see how long you can keep someone awake. And there's a whole rabbit hole about that, but the very bare bones, the very basic of it is just implying that, well, this was used on prisoners as a way of testing, because of course it was like good examples to test this thing. And at the same time, it brought up the theory that us as human beings, we need to sleep, or if we do not, we are allowing something in our consciousness to suddenly reach out. It's a very that's a very basics of that theory, but it's so fucking creepy. It's such a creepy thing, and I'm not talking like, oh, you just don't sleep for a couple of days. No, you need to not sleep for weeks or months for that effect to happen, and it's by that point you're gonna die. But there was a whole thing about this that actually this experiment that was actually done in a different way. Not exactly as the story says. It's of course a creepypasta. It's just a very traumatized version. But there were testings like this apparently. And yeah, it was just a whole theory that us as human beings need to sleep, for if we do not, we're no longer keeping something in our consciousness away. So that means we're allowing something to be free. And we're about to get into more details about it right now. Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experimental gas-based stimulant. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor their oxygen intake so the gas didn't kill them, since it was toxic in high concentrations. This was before closed-circuit cameras, so they had only microphones and 5-inch thick glass porthole-sized windows into the chamber to monitor them. I lost my train of thought immediately. The chamber was stocked with books, cots to sleep on but no bedding, running water and toilet, and had enough dried food to last all 5 for over a month. Not this music? I know, I just picked the right playlist with this. Yeah, staying away for more than 3 days can kill you, so imagine like 15 days. It's worse. The test subjects were political prisoners deemed enemies of the state during World War II. Everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained, having been promised falsely that they would be freed if they submitted to the test and did not sleep for 30 days. Their conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past. And the general tone of their conversations took on a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and events that led them to where they were and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. I also have sleep issues, and this story made me so scared sometimes. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering to the microphones and one-way mirror portholes. Oddly, they all seemed to think they could win the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades, the other subjects in captivity with them. At first, the researchers suspected this was an effect of the gas itself. Well, yeah. After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber, repeatedly yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight. He continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about this behavior is how the other captives reacted to it, or rather didn't react to it. They continued whispering to the microphones until the second of the captives started to scream. The 2 non-screaming captives took the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces, and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped, so did the whispering to the microphones. It's already... I really like the point of view of the story. Yes, you know, it's a good way to tell it. After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure they were working, since they thought it impossible that no sound could be coming with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must still be alive. In fact, it was the amount of oxygen 5 people would consume at a very heavy level of strenuous exercise. On the morning of the 14th day, the researchers did something they said they would not do to get a reaction from the captives. They used the intercom inside the chamber, hoping to provoke any response from the captives that were afraid were either dead or vegetables. They announced, "We are opening the chamber to test the microphone. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom." To their surprise, they heard a single phrase in a calm voice respond. "We no longer want to be freed." It's already... Debate broke among the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response using the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. On to the next page. I know, it's horrifying to just think of. Nero! I almost call you nerd. Nero, thank you. Okay, next up. Go here. The chamber was flushed off the stimulant and filled with fresh air, and immediately voices from the microphones began to object. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for the life of the loved ones to turn the gas back on. The chamber was open, and soldiers sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than ever, and so did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state of any of them life. The food rations past day 5 had not been so much as touched. There were chunks of meat from the dead test subject's thighs and chest stuffed into the drain in the center of the chamber, blocking the drain and allowing 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Ugh. Precisely how much of the water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. The destruction of flesh and exposed bone on their fingertips indicated that the wounds were inflicted by hand, not with teeth, as the researchers initially thought. Closer examination of the position and angles of the wounds indicated that most, if not all of them, were self-inflicted. This is already such a gruesome image, Eerie. Hi, TK, welcome back. Buddy almost died. Oh yeah, you got a sub, you're welcome. Music is helping you scare me so much. Good. Good. The abdominal organs below the ribcage of all 4 test subjects have been removed. While the heart, lungs, and diaphragm remain in place, the skin and most of the muscles attached to the ribs have been ripped off, exposing the lungs through the ribcage. All the blood vessels and organs remain intact. They had just been taken out and laid on the floor. Finding out around the eviscerated but still living bodies of the subjects, the digestive tract of all 4 could be seen to be working, digesting food. It quickly became apparent that what they were digesting was their own flesh that they had ripped off and eaten over the course of days. Most of the soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still many refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. I mean, yeah, I'm not going in there. I'm not checking on I don't care how much experience I'm not going in. To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One of the Russian soldiers died from having his throat ripped out. Another was gravely injured by having the testicles ripped off, and an artery in his leg severed by one of the subjects' teeth. Oh! Another 5 of the soldiers lost their life if you count ones that committed suicide in the weeks following the incident. In the struggle, one of the 4 living subjects had his spleen rupture and he bled out almost immediately. The medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times the human dose of a morphine derivative and still fought like a corner animal, breaking the ribs and arm of one doctor. When heart had seemed to beat for a full 2 minutes after he had bled out to the point there was more air in his vascular system than blood. Even after it stopped, he continued to scream and flare for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach and just repeating the word more over and over, weaker and weaker, until he finally fell silent. All of these implications are horrifying. Imagine the amount of sedatives to put someone and still have that guy kicking. It's horrifying, fucking horrifying. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility. They too, with intact vocal cords, continuously begging for the gas, demanding to be kept awake. The most injured of the 3 was taken to a only surgical operating room that the facility had. In the process of preparing the subject to have his organs placed back within its body, it was found that he was effectively immune to the sedative they had given him to prepare him for the surgery. He fought furiously against his restraints. When the anesthetic gas was brought out to put him under, he managed to tear most of the way through a 4-inch white leather strap on one wrist. Jesus. Even though the weight of a 200-pound soldier was holding that wrist as well. It took only a little more anesthetic than normal to put him under. And the instant his eyelids fluttered and closed, his heart stopped. In the autopsy of the test subject that died on the operating table, it was found that his blood had triple the normal level of oxygen. His muscles that were still attached to his skeleton were badly torn. He had broken 9 bones in his struggle to not be subdued. Most of them were from the force his own muscles had exerted on them. The second survivor had been the first of the group of 5 to start screaming. His vocal cords destroyed, he was unable to beg or object to surgery, and he only reacted by shaking his head violently in disapproval when the anesthetic gas was brought near him. He shook his head yes when someone suggested reluctantly they try the surgery without anesthetic, and did not react for the entire 6-hour procedure of replacing his abdominal organs and attempting to cover them with what remained of his skin. You're eating a burger, right? Let me lower a bit of music. Okay. Ugh. Almost through the microphone. Okay. The surgeon presiding stated repeatedly that it should be medically possible for the patient to still be alive. One terrified nurse assisting the surgery stated that she had seen the patient's mouth curl into a smile several times whenever his eyes met hers. When the surgery ended, the subject looked at the surgeon and began to wheeze loudly, attempting to talk while struggling. Assuming this must be something of drastic importance, the surgeon had a pen and a pad fetched so the patient could write his message. It was simple: keep cutting. The other 2 test subjects were given the same surgery, both without anesthetic as well, although they had to be injected with a paralytic for the duration of the operation. The surgeon found it impossible to perform the operation while the patients laughed continuously. Once paralyzed, the subjects could only follow the attending researchers with their eyes. The paralytic cleared their system in an abnormally short period of time that they were soon trying to escape their bonds. The moment they could speak, they were again asking for the stimulant gas. The researchers tried asking why they had injured themselves, why they had ripped out their own guts, and why they wanted to be given the gas again. Only one response was given: I must remain awake. All 3 subjects' restraints were reinforced and they were placed back into the chamber, awaiting determination as to what should be done with them. The researchers, facing the wrath of the military benefactors for having failed the stated goals of their project, considered euthanizing the surviving subjects. The commanding officer, a former KGB agent, instead saw potential and wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. Is there really 5 people to read? Yeah, there's a lot of people. Oh, it's brought so many people to read creepypastas. Hi, Egg, by the way. Hi, alright. How are you? Do I want to be a winner? Alright, let me see. Where was I? The researchers strongly objected but were overruled. In preparation for being sealed in the chamber again, the subjects were connected to an EEG monitor and had their restraints padded for long-term confinement. To everyone's surprise, all 3 stopped struggling the moment it was let slip that they were going back on the gas. It was obvious that at this point, all 3 were putting up a great struggle to stay awake. One of the subjects that could speak was humming loudly and continuously. The mute subject was straining his legs against the leather bonds and all his might, first left, then right, then left again for something to focus on. The remaining subject was holding his head off his pillow and blinking rapidly. Being the first to be wired to EEG, most of the researchers were monitoring his brain waves in surprise. They were normal most of the time, but sometimes flatlined inexplicably. It looked as if he were repeatedly suffering from brain death before returning to normal. As they focused on paper scrolling out of the brainwave monitor, only one nurse saw his eyes slip shut at the same moment his head hit the pillow. His brainwaves immediately changed to that of a deep sleep, then flatlined for the last time as his heart simultaneously stopped. It's just like Ari's experiment going to end with the subject saying to him. Yeah. Okay, the only remaining subject that could speak starts screaming to be sealed in now. His brainwaves showed the same flat lines as one who had just died from falling asleep. The commander gave the ordeal to seal the chamber with both subjects inside, as well as 3 researchers. One of the named 3 immediately drew his gun and shot the commander point blank between his eyes, then turned the gun to the mute subject and blew his brains out as well. He pointed his gun at the remaining subjects, still restrained to a bed as the remaining members of the medical and research team fled the room. I won't be locked in here with these things. Not with you, he screamed as the man strapped to the table. What are you? He demanded. I must know. The subject smiled. Have you forgotten so easily? The subject asked. We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go into the nocturnal haven where we cannot thread. The researchers paused, and aim at the subject's heart and fire. The EEG flatlined as the subject weakly choked out, so nearly free. Still, this is still fucking amazing. Still so fucked up and cool. I love the story. I love the story. I love the story. I love the story. There's so many layers to this. There's so many layers and implications as to what the hell was going on. Something in the human psyche that it's kept at bay by just sleeping. It's a horrifying thought. What was free? What was 100%? I know. Yeah, like the whole way, like doing a mini look back on this, the way that the subjects on the 4th day, the time that you should be dead by then, like you should be dead by the 4th day, because if you don't sleep for 3 days, that basically you're dying. The fact that they started screaming on that date and then just suddenly stopped could imply that whatever was trying to reach out just finally took over. And the whole attempts that are just like, I need to stay awake, I need to stay awake, is just these things making sure that they can remain on that body. So that's why the second that one of the subjects just fell asleep, it's just gone, because that person was dead, but the thing in their heads was just taking over. Okay. Let's do Jack. Okay. I'll do Jack. I mean, what? I never heard about the tape. We'll get you through it. I'll show you. Alice Jack, I'm a bit disappointed from what I found, because it's like, it's just one page. It's just one. You what? What? Who said that? Who said that? Damon? Damon, was it you? What you say? I don't know. I don't know. Damon, summon Jack. Summon Jack. Everyone, I need everyone's power. We need to summon Jack. Everyone, start. I don't know. Start praying or whatever. Let's summon Jack. You stare into this beautiful eye socket. I did. Alright. You should read chapter 2 of my fanfic on stream. I don't think I'll do that. Everyone, let's Jack, where are you? Jack! There he is. Okay, Eyeless Jack. He's not precisely known for his story. He's mainly known by the work of art, the photography, a work of photography that someone made on DeviantArt. You've probably seen the picture. It's a picture of a hooded figure with a blank mask and 2 eye sockets just staring down at someone's bed. And if you do the command Jack, you probably will see it. But yeah, it's not exactly known for the story it has, but it's similar to Slenderman. It's a similar thing. There's no specific story to tell you, oh, it's this and that. It's mostly a character that just people started to add up to it. And much like Slenderman, where people added the pages, people added the Marvel Hornets, people added the proxies. With Eyeless Jack, they added the fact that he was a dead soldier, a dead veteran or some shit that just goes into your bedroom with a scalpel and eats your kidneys. It's like that. He's My crush. He's he's a popular character on the media. Files like I will plead the fifth on that. I will not discuss details about it, and you will hear from my lawyers. Okay, you will hear from my lawyers. I will make you piss your bed. You will not sleep well tonight. I will piss yourself. Oh, my name is Mitch. I'm here to tell you guys about an experience I had. I don't know if it was paranormal or whatever stupid words people use to describe supernatural phenomena. But after that thing visited me, I believe in that paranormal trash now. Oh, stop! A week after I moved in with my brother Edwin, after my house was foreclosed, I finished unpacking. Edwin liked the idea of me moving in since we had not seen each other for 10 years. So I was excited too. I soon fell asleep after I moved in. After that first week, I heard rustling noises coming from outside about 1 in the morning. I thought it was a raccoon, so I ignored it. I tried to fall asleep. The next morning, I told Edwin about it, and he agreed. Wait, that's it? Wait, hold on. I heard noise. Let dial it back. I heard noises outside. I thought it was a raccoon. I did not think much on it. I told my brother, and he agreed. Anyway, the next night, however, he agreed. The end. Well, it's not the end of that statement, so it's a bit weird. The next night, however, I thought I heard my window opening and a loud thump, as if something entered my room. I darted up and looked around my room, but I saw nothing. The next morning, Edwin dropped his coffee cup when he saw me. He held up a nearby mirror and I saw myself. I had a large gash in my left cheek. After I was rushed to the hospital, my doctor told me that I must have been sleepwalking. But then he showed me something that made my blood turn cold. He lifted my shirt to reveal a sewn-up incision where my kidneys were. I stared at his eyes, mind widening. You somehow lost your kidney last night. My doctor told me. We don't know how, though. Sorry, Mitch. I'm sorry, it's just something very funny about the way this is phrased. Imagine a professional. Like, I want you to picture a professional, a doctor, talking to you. And he just walks up to you, lifts your shirt, says, "You lost a kidney. We don't know how. Sorry." Anyway, $500. I feel like there's a tone to this. I feel like there's a tone to this that's not quite there. I've been to hospitals like that. Okay, so it's more accurate? Okay, good to know. The next night was my breaking point. So losing your kidney was not a breaking point? Around midnight, I woke up to see a truly horrifying sight. I was staring face to face with a creature with a black hoodie and a dark blue mask. With no nose or mouth staring down at me. The thing that scared me the most was that it had no eyes, just empty black sockets. The creature also had some black substance dripping from its sockets. I grabbed the camera from the nearby mantle and I took the picture. I immediately, after taking the shot, the creature lunged at me and tried to claw open my chest to get to my lungs. I stopped by kicking it in the face. As I ran out of the room, I grabbed my wallet. I need the money. I ran out of my brother's house into the night. I eventually ended up in the woods near Edwin's house and tripped on a rock. Okay, so pause. You're not home alone. Your brother's there. You got attacked. You just took off into the woods with only your wallet. And you did not even tell your brother that, hey, there's an intruder. I fell unconscious and woke up in the hospital. My doctor, the same one who treated me before, entered the room. Have good news and bad news, Mitch, the doctor started. The good news is that you had minor injuries and your parents are going to pick you up. Sigh with relief. The bad news is that your brother has been killed by something. Sorry. Your dad's gonna pick you up in an hour. Your brother's dead. $500. My parents. Oh, you just moved on. My parents took me back to Edwin's house to collect my remaining belongings, which I did. Upon entering my room, I was scared but remained calm. I grabbed my camera and then stopped dead in my tracks. In the hallway leading to my room, I saw Edwin's body and something small lying next to it. I retrieved it up and entered my parents' car, not mentioning Edwin's corpse. I looked at the thing I had picked up and nearly vomited. I was holding my stolen half-eaten kidney with some black substance on it. That's it. That's it. Now, there's a lot to process here. There's a lot packed in this. I feel like they saw the body and just like, yeah, there's a lot of. I feel like 5 pages of this were just contained into a single one. It's not like a summary of the actual story, but it is the actual story. So there's like, this is the original thing. There's not a short version. This is the whole thing. So yeah, a lot of logistics was left out. So it starts with, hello, my name is Mitch. I have to tell you about an experience I had. And he tells it like flawlessly, back to back, not even like stopping. Like, there's nothing. There's no call for help. There's no moment to grieve. There's no time to process what happened. There's no picture shared or used. He took a picture of it. Where is the picture? So it was raccoon in a suit. Yeah. That could have been a fine story if it wasn't written. Yeah, the way it's written. Okay, I want you to know that I'm not throwing shade at the author, but listen. Hello, my name is Pitch. Period. I'm here to tell you guys about an experience. Period. I don't know if it was paranormal or what are stupid words people describe as paranormal. Period. I waited for him with my brother after my house was foreclosed. Period. Like, there's so many short sentences. It's just, there's so many short sentences going back to back, but it's just like not giving you time to process or appreciate what you're putting on the table. Ooh, okay. You no longer have to choose because the next stories are very few. So, Damon, take Shaq away. Take him away. Right now, we're gonna move on to the last story before Jeb the Killer, which is 4 pages. 4 pages, simple enough. And it's called The Strangest Security Tape I've Ever Seen. It has one of those very clickbaity titles. There's a lot of the titles like these for modern creepypastas. Like, I work at a night shift and what I saw tonight scarred me forever. Like, I am a therapist. I think my patient is a serial killer. Yeah, it's just a lot of like that. Damon, play the tape. Damon, play the image. Damon, come on. Damon, pick up the slack. Damon. There it is. Okay. This drawing is gonna make more sense once I read the whole story. It's gonna make more sense once you see what's going on in this. Okay. This is one of the first, if not the first creepypasta I've ever seen. I found the video on YouTube. The whole thumbnail and everything was just so appealing, and I listened. I was so into it. And that's kind of what kicked off me searching more creepypastas all over. And that's how I got into a whole rabbit hole of creepypastas and why I'm a fan of them. Wait, what's that? Oh my god. Wait a second. It's 5 minutes. give me a minute. If you look closely at the orb, if you look very closely at the orb, there's I think there's something you can what could it possibly be? It's oh my god, like if you don't skip, please don't look away, please don't turn off your TV, please look very closely, because oh my god, oh my god, could it be that Damon this whole time has when you and then you mama and then like oh my god, it's him! There it is! Oh my god! No, how could it be? Oh my god, it's drowned the bend! Oh. It's real! It's real! I'm tired. Unfortunately, I need to... There we go, okay. Let's get back to... It's okay, it wasn't real. It was a fake. It was a ruse. A work of fiction. I work at a gas station in rural Pennsylvania. It's a boring job, but it's pretty easy and it pays alright. A few weeks ago, this new guy started. I'll call him Jeremy. Jeremy is weird. He's about 25 or 26, and he hardly speaks. But he got the creepiest laugh I've ever heard. My boss and I have both noticed this, but it's never been a problem. So there's not much we can do about it. Customers have never complained about him, and there's not much we can do about it. Customers have never complained about him, and he's always done his job fairly well. Up until a few weeks ago anyway. That's when things started going missing. Employee theft can be a problem at any business that sells customer goods, and there's only one person working at a time at this gas station. It's a pretty small place. About 2 weeks ago, my boss started noticing that they were short on motor oil. At first, it was a few containers at a time, then entire shelves and boxes from the back room. Pretty soon, entire shipments would be gone the day after we got them, and it would always be right after Jeremy's shifts. My boss had checked the security camera tapes from every single night he worked, but he could never catch him in the act. Jeremy will lock up at closing, then the motor oil will be gone the next day. My boss usually takes the tapes home with him to try and catch Jeremy stealing. But his daughter had a softball game last night, so he asked me to watch that tape for him. He offered me to pay me overtime under the table, so obviously I took that offer. There are three cameras, so he gave me 3 different tapes to check. I figured it would be a long night, but I'm trying to save for a vacation, so I really needed the money. I took the tapes home and popped them in an old VCR and sat back. 2 days ago, the last time he worked, Jeremy started at 4 p.m. Everything seemed pretty normal at first. He counted up his drawer, switched up with the girl who was working before him, and waited for a customer. The first person who came in was Mrs. Templeton. The timestamp on the video read 4:03 at a regular. She picked up her cigarettes and a newspaper and paid with a 20. Nothing unusual there. The next customer was some local guy named Ron. He drives a motorcycle. Usually comes in every few days. He filled up his tank, got a bag of beef jerky, paid with his credit card, and then left. Next was some guy with a cowboy hat. I'd never seen him before, but we got plenty of strangers passing through. It's like any gas station. He got $40 worth of diesel fuel, paid with a $100 bill, and went on his way. I sat back and sighed. The only thing more boring than doing this job is watching someone else do it. My boss's offer was enough to keep me watching though, so I left the tape on. Everything seemed pretty normal. I had a feeling that if Jeremy was stealing more oil, he knew we were suspicious of him by now. I didn't expect him to be dumb enough to let us catch him on the camera. Things stayed boring and routine until 5 o'clock. At 5:03, Miss Templeton came back in. She must have forgotten something. But she didn't. She bought the same pack of cigarettes as before and the same newspaper. She paid with another 20. That's odd. I thought, but then again, she's a little absent-minded. I thought Jeremy should have told her she already got her smokes, but it's not against the rules to sell somebody the same thing twice. That's when Ron came in again. He bought another tank of gas for his motorcycle again, later checked the outdoor camera, because I thought maybe he had another car he wanted to fill up. And the same pack of beef jerky he paid with his credit card. Again. No big deal. I figured it was just a weird coincidence. Miss Templeton is forgetful, and Ron probably owns more than one Harley. That's when the guy in the cowboy hat came back in. I felt a chill run down my spine. Don't get diesel. Don't get diesel. I found myself whispering in an empty living room. He did. He got $40 worth of diesel fuel and paid with another $100 bill. Every move he made was identical to his first visit, right down to the way he scratched his nose before he walked away. Either this guy is rich, owns a lot of trucks, and just moved this down, or something really bizarre was happening. I kept watching. Yeah, time loop. Like, ooh. Every customer for the next hour was the same as before. Every single one, I was seriously freaked out. And then at 6:03, Miss Templeton walked back. She bought her cigarettes and newspaper again and paid with 20 again. I thought I was going to lose it. I only watched another half hour before I started fast forwarding through the rest. It was all the same. Every customer would come in exact same times, exactly 1 hour apart. Now I know what you're thinking. The sneaky motherfucker Jeremy had messed with the tapes. He had run a loop on the first hour of business over and over. That wasn't the case. There are windows around the cash register area that the camera covers, and I watched the sunlight fade as time ran on. Jeremy's routine didn't loop over. He swept, mopped, restocked, and did all his duties exactly how you'd expect. But the same customers kept coming in. I was panicking at this point. Something was seriously wrong with what I was seeing, and I had no explanation for it. I skipped ahead and to when he locked up and he walked out of his car. He hadn't stolen anything, but I kept watching, just to make sure. Fast forward one last time, about midnight. At exactly 12:03, out of nowhere, Jeremy's face pops up on camera. I don't mean he moved his head into view. I mean that 1 second the store was empty, and the next second his face was all I could see. He wasn't looking at the camera, he was looking at me. I was sure of it. I screamed and fumbled for the remote. By the time I grabbed it, he was gone. Just as soon as he had left. One frame he was there, the next he wasn't. My hands were shaking like crazy, but I popped in another tape. There the indoor camera shows the back area at the cash register, and I will be able to see how he got up to put his face on a camera like that. Skip ahead to 12:03, but there was nothing. I would have been able to see him standing on a chair or something on this tape, but he wasn't there. I didn't see him enter the store at all after he left. It's like he wasn't really there. He doesn't know the security code, and no alarms were triggered that night after he locked up. What I did see, however, was that at 12:03, the motor oil vanished off the shelf. All of it. Same as Jeremy's face. 1 second it was there, the next it wasn't. I turned the tape off and went to bed. But again, I wink asleep. My body is exhausted right now, but my mind is racing. The tape is undoubtedly the creepiest, most disturbing thing I've ever seen in my life. I woke in a few hours. My boss asked me to bring the tapes back and let him know that what I found. But really, what the hell am I going to say? Jeremy works the night shift tonight, directly after me, and the plan is for my boss to come in just before I leave and confront him with me, as I'm supposed to be the one who caught him stealing. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I suppose I'll have to show my boss the tapes, but I don't want to watch them with him. I never want to see something like that again. I can get the image of Jeremy just smiling directly into the camera out of my mind. It was the creepiest look I've ever seen on another human being's face. Anyway, I'm gonna try and get some last minute sleep before I have to go to bed and deal with this. I'll let you guys know what happens. Update. 2:49 p.m. Updating from my phone. Apologies in advance for errors. My boss just finished watching the last tapes. I told him what to expect. But you really can't prepare someone for something like that. He's scared shitless. I still am too. And Jeremy is due to come at 4. We got a little over an hour to get our shit together. But neither of us knows what to say to him. Is he just a fucked up guy who likes to steal motor oil and scare the shit out of people? Or is he something else? I don't know if this is crazy, but does anyone think he could have anything to do with a time loop? My boss said he never noticed anything like that in the other tapes, but the way he popped in this one made me think he knew I would be watching. It's like he wanted to see me what he could do. Like he was showing off or something. The way he smiled into the camera was a little kid showing you a sandcastle they just built or something. I don't know, I probably sound crazy. I sure feel the part. I'm going to talk to my boss some more. We have to calm ourselves down and figure out how to handle this. I'll update again tonight, but I have a really bad feeling about this. How this is going to play out. See, this intrigued me so much when I first read it. Update, 4:33 a.m. No sign of Jeremy. Try calling him, but his phone has been disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 5:33. No sign of Jeremy. Try calling him, but his phone has been disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 6:33. No sign of Jeremy. Try calling him, but his phone has been disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 7:33. No sign of Jeremy. Try calling him, but his phone has been disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 8:33. No sign of Jeremy. Try calling him, but his phone has been disconnected. We're calling the police. Update, 10:58 p.m. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. I just got home and saw my previous updates. Things make less sense now than ever. Here's what I can tell you. I went to work, Jeremy never showed up. My boss and I decided to call the police, as you're well aware. When I picked the phone to call, the sun went out. I shit you not, that's what I thought happened. Apparently I blacked out for exactly 5 hours, because when I looked at the clock, it was 9:33 a.m. I think I got stuck in Jeremy's time loop. And I snapped out of it at the exact point I blacked out. If that makes sense. But that's when things got really weird. My boss was right next to me when I blacked out, ready to corroborate my story to the cops. When it came to the phone was in my hand, but it was dead, not even a dial tone. My boss was still right here, but he wasn't moving. He was standing up, but frozen. I looked at the clock again, it wasn't moving. The second hand was stuck on the 12. It was exactly 9:33. The clock on the registered computer screen wasn't moving either. My phone was frozen. There was even a customer at the register waiting for my boss to get him cigarettes. I'm betting that would have been his 5th pack of the day. I got the fuck out of there. Didn't lock up, didn't turn the lights on. And sorry guys, I didn't grab the security tapes to upload on the internet. Believe me, that was the last thing on my mind. The gas station is on the major highway and cars were parked all along it. I said they weren't packed, they were frozen. The people inside were sitting still as wax statues. I got in my car and prayed that it would start. Thankfully, it did. About halfway home, time started up again. The static from the radio turned into music like it's supposed to be, and from what I could tell by listening to the host talking between songs, no one noticed the time freeze, or whatever it was. I was the only one. Well, I'm sure Jeremy noticed as well. I still have no clue where he is or what he's doing. I'm hiding in my room and calling the police again in the morning. I don't know if I ever got through to them before, but if I did, whether they took me seriously. I'm scared for my life at this point. I'll update tomorrow if I can. Final update, 10:33 a.m. I finally fell asleep last night around 4. I have no idea how I did it. I guess exhaustion finally got the best of me. This morning, I woke up to my phone ringing. It was my boss. He'd been calling me since about 6. He woke up when the time turned back on the last night and immediately called the cops. They came by to see what was wrong, and he told them everything. The police around here are small-time guys. They were more concerned with the missing motor oil than anything, but my boss figured he would take it, as long as he had their attention. They decided to go looking for Jeremy. We keep all our employees' applications on file, and since Jeremy just started working here, this was easy to find. They checked the address on it and head over to the house. You're not gonna believe what they found. The address Jeremy listed on his application was an empty lot, or at least now it is. There used to be a house there, but it burned down in 1993. Being a small town, almost everyone remembers that fire. A family of 4 used to live there way back when. Rumor has it that they had an estranged son who they never really talked about, but I can't say for sure if that's true. What I can say is true is that after an insurance investigation, the fire was ruled as arson. The entire house was soaked in oil and torched with a Molotov cocktail. The entire family was sleeping when it happened. None of them survived. They never caught the guy who did it. Rumor has it that when they tried to contact the estranged son, no one could find him. Anyway, my boss called me to tell me this, and I freaked out. Then he asked me to come to the gas station. What are you, crazy? I said, but he assured me that the cops were with him, and he dropped a bomb. The FBI was also in town. They were going to talk to me one way or another, so I might as well come in. It was about 7:15, and I wanted to go back to bed, but I figured I wouldn't be able to sleep much more anyway. I went down. 4 men in suits greeted me and told me to have a seat. We went over everything 2 or 3 times until they all got the details down. I told them about Jeremy. The security tape last night at work. Everything finally, after I finished, one of the agents said, "Oh Christ, we got another one on our hands." Then they made me sign a bunch of papers. I wouldn't tell anyone about what happened, so I can't say much more. Might be breaking the law just by posting this. So now I'm home. I'm not sure what to do with myself. The agent's words when I told them the story are going to haunt me for the rest of my life. Anyway, I gotta go. I have some errands to run today, and I have to go into work to pick some tapes. My boss and I think the new guy, Jeremy, is a complete creep, is stealing motor oil, and I have to watch the security footage to see if I can catch him doing it. I have better things to do, but my boss is paying me overtime under the table. And I'm trying to save up for a vacation, so I could really use the money. It should be pretty simple. The oil always goes missing right after the shifts. I figure I'll just watch the tapes, catch him in the act, and that will be that. I love this story. It's so clever. It's such a clever story. It's a very clever story, and I love it. It's just like, if you really pay attention to everything that is narrating, it's amazing. It's so cleverly done, and it just leaves enough room for you to fill up the blanks. For a second, I thought Valve was leaving to actually do errands because I spaced out. No, you're fine. It's a good one. It's like, this is the... you don't see a lot of time loop shit like in horror and creepypasta like these, but this one's great. This one's fucking great. Because it just casually does it. It just does it very subtly. And you can see all the patterns going as you read along. Like how every update was at like every hour at 33. And how the person that died on the fire, like the family that died in the fire, was in 1993. And then the whole motor oil. And it just leaves enough space for you to theorize exactly what happened. You know what time it is, right? You know what time it is. I've guided you through many stories. I introduced you new ones. I brought you back to some old ones. But we're all here for one main reason. To see me in a suit. No, you're here to see a story. You're here to see one story that has shaped us all. A story that has stuck with us for so long. A story that is part of our childhood trauma. And then now, yeah, it's been drowned. And then now we're gonna look back on so fondly. It's time. It's time. It's time. It's time. Say goodbye to the strangest security tape. No, that's... oops. Oops. I really like the story. I'm glad. That one's one of my favorites ever. It is time to bring the final course. I'm blurring myself for the final course of this. We needs no introduction. We all know him. We all have seen at least the image, or we all are very fucking familiar with him. The guy who just kills you and tells you to go to bed because it's late. It's truly a horrifying sight. The one and only Damon, bring it up. There it is. There he is. There he is. Lo and behold, there he is. Joshua the Unaliver. This story is a mess. I'm gonna sugarcoat it. It's a lot. Excerpt from a local newspaper. Ominous unknown killer still at large. After weeks of unexplained murders, the ominous unknown killer is still on the rise. After little evidence has been found, a young boy said that he survived one of the killer's attacks and bravely tells his story. I had a bad dream and I woke up in the middle of the night, says the boy. I saw that for some reason the window was open, even though I remembered it being closed before I went to bed. I got up and shut it once more. Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to get back to sleep. That's when I had this strange feeling, like someone was watching me. I looked up and nearly jumped out of my bed. There, in the ray of light illuminated from between my curtains, were a pair of two eyes. They weren't regular eyes, they were dark, ominous eyes. They were bordering black and just plain out terrifying me. That's when I saw his mouth. A long, horrendous mouth that made every hair on my body stand up. The figure stood there, watching me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he said it. A simple phrase, but said in a way that only a madman could speak. He said, "Go to sleep." I let out a scream. That's what sent him at me. He pulled out his knife, aiming at my heart. He jumped on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked, I punched, I rolled around, trying to knock him off me. That's when my dad busted in. The man drew the knife. It went into my dad's shoulder. The man probably would have finished him off if one of the neighbors hadn't alerted the police. They drove into the parking lot and ran towards the door. The man turned and ran down the hallway. I heard a smash like glass breaking. As I came out of my room, I saw a window that was pointing towards the back of my house was broken. I looked out to see him vanish into the distance. I can tell you one thing, I will never forget that face. Those cold, evil eyes and that psychotic smile, they would never leave my head. Okay, let's stop. Let's pause. Let's pause a bit. So, this is saying that it's a statement from a boy. Have you ever seen a kid talk like this? So, do you think a teenager or something like that would say, afterwards, I crawled into my bed to go to bed, and that's what I saw. Like, it's if you were from the Victorian era, if you had a little candle holder, a little sleeping gown. Afterwards, I went to bed. Police are still on the look for this man. If you see anyone that fits the description of this story, please contact your local police department. Jeff and it just immediately stops. Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. His dad had gotten a promotion at work, and they thought it would be best to live in one of those fancy neighborhoods. Jeff and his brother Liu couldn't complain though. A new, better house was not allowed. As they were getting unpacked, one of their neighbors came by. "Hello," she said. "I'm Barbara. I live across the street from you. I just wanted to introduce myself and to introduce my son." She turns around and calls her son over. "Billy, these are our new neighbors." Billy said hi and ran back to play in his yard. "Well," said Jeff's mom, "I'm Margaret, and this is my husband Peter." Some of the most average names you've ever seen in your life. My two sons, Jeff and Liu. What kind of name is Liu? They each introduced themselves, and then Barbara invited them to their son's birthday. Just like that. When Jeff and his family were done packing, Jeff went to his mom. "Mom, why would you invite us to some kid's party? If you haven't noticed, I'm not some dumb kid." "Jeff," said his mother, "we just moved here. We should show that we want to spend time with our neighbors. Now we're going to that party, and that's final." Jeff started to talk, but stopped himself, knowing that he couldn't do anything. If his mom said something, it was final. Do you think this is the vaguely hitting grudge from the author? He walked out to his room and plopped down on his bed. He sat there looking at the ceiling when suddenly he got a weird feeling. Not so much pain, but a weird feeling. He dismissed it as just some random feeling. He heard his mother call him down to get his stuff, and he walked down to get it. we go over that. We go bypass that real quick. The next day, Jack walked downstairs to get breakfast and got ready for school. As he sat there eating his breakfast, he once again got the feeling. This time it was stronger. Oh, yeah, but can you describe it? Can you tell me what it is? It gave him a slight tug in pain. He once again dismissed it. As he and Liu finished breakfast, they walked down to the bus stop. They sat there waiting for the bus, and then, all of a sudden, some kid on a skateboard jumped over them, only inches above their laps. They both jumped back in surprise. Hey, what the hell? The kid landed and turned back to them. He kicked his skateboard up and caught it with his hands. The kid seems to be about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff. Oh my god, you're 13! He wears an Aeropostale shirt and ripped blue jeans. Oh my god, I don't want to read this. Oh my god. Oh my god, I don't want to read this. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, look at it. You ready to listen? You wanna hear what this kid says? The skateboard kid says? Well. Looks like we got some new meat. Damon, can you believe this shit? Suddenly, two other kids appear. One was super skinny and the other was huge. Well, since you're new here, I would like to introduce ourselves. Over there is Keith. Jeff and Liu looked at the skinny kid. He had a dopey face that you would expect a sidekick to have. What's that mean? And he's Troy. They looked over at the fat kid. Talk about okay, this is not dialogue. Okay, this is what I'm about to read is not dialogue. This is the description of the narrator, of the author, of the writer. They looked over at the fat kid. Talk about a double lord. This kid looked like he hadn't exercised since he was crawling. And I, said the first kid, am Randy. Now, for all the kids in this neighborhood, there is a small prize for bus fare. If you catch my drift. Liu stood up, ready to punch the lights out of this kid's eye, where one of his friends pulled a knife on him. And quote, I hope you will be more cooperative, but it seems you must do this the hard way. The kid walked up to Liu and took his wallet out of his pocket. Just like that. Jeff got that feeling again. Now it was truly strong, a burning sensation. He stood up, but Liu gestured him to sit down. Jeff ignored him and walked up to the kid. Listen here, you little punk. Give back my bro's wallet or else. Randy put the wallet in his pocket and pulled out his own knife. Oh, and what will you do? Just as he finished the sentence, Jeff popped the kid in the nose. And Randy reached for his face. Jeff grabbed the kid's wrist and broke it. Randy screamed and Jeff grabbed the knife from his hand, trying Kevin rush Jeff, but Jeff was too quick. He threw Randy to the ground. Keith bashed out at him, but Jeff ducked too quick. He threw Randy to the ground. Keith lashed out at him, but Jeff ducked and stabbed him in the arm. Keith dropped his knife and fell to the ground screaming. Troy rushed him too, but Jeff didn't even need the knife. He just punched Troy straight in the stomach and Troy went down. As he fell, he puked all over. You could do nothing but look in amazement. So they're really a product of its time. Jeff, how do you? Was all he said. They saw the bus coming and knew they would be blamed for the whole thing. They started running as fast as they could. As they ran, they looked back and saw the bus driver rushing over to Randy and the others. As Jeff and Liu made it to school, they didn't even dare tell what happened. All they did was sit and listen. Liu thought of that as his brother beating up a few kids, but Jeff knew it was more. It was something scary. As he got that feeling, he felt how powerful it was. The urge just hurt someone. Didn't like how it sounded, but he couldn't help feeling happy. He felt that strange feeling go away. and stay away for the entire day of school. Even as he walked home due to the whole thing. Even as he walked home due to the whole thing near the bus stop and how he probably wouldn't be taking the bus anymore, he felt happy. When he got home, his parents asked him how his day was, and he said, in a somewhat ominous voice, "It was a wonderful day." Next morning, he heard a knock on his front door. He walked down to find 2 police officers at the door, his mother looking back at him with an angry look. "Jeff, these officers tell me that you attacked these 3 kids, that it wasn't regular fighting, and that they were stabbed. Stab, son!" Jeff's gaze fell to the floor, showing his mother that it was true. "Ow. Mom, you were the ones who pulled the knives on me and Liu." "Son," said one of the cops, "we found 3 kids, 2 stabbed, 1 having a bruise on his stomach, and we have witnesses proving that you fled the scene." You're not gonna mention... Okay, you're not gonna mention that he broke... Yeah, Jeff grabbed the kid's wrist and broke it. And then now you said, we have 3 kids, 2 stabbed, 1 having a bruise on his stomach. Anyway, we have witnesses proving that you fled the scene. Now what does that tell us? Jeff knew it was no use. He could say him and Liu had been attacked, but then there was no proof it was not them who attacked first. They couldn't stay there. They couldn't say that they weren't fleeing, because truth be told, they were. So Jeff couldn't defend himself or Liu. "Son, call down your brother." Jeff couldn't do it since it was he who beat up all the kids. "Sir, it was me. I was the one who beat up the kids. You tried to hold me back, but he couldn't stop me." The cop looked at his partner, and then they both nod. "Well, kid, looks like a year in juvie." Oh, just like that. Just jail. "Wait," says Leo. They all looked up to see him holding a knife. The officers pulled their guns and looked. Hold back. They all looked up. Oh, wait. "Wait," says Leo. They all looked up to see him holding a knife. The officers pulled their guns and locked them at Leo. So like the 13-year-old has a knife. Lethal force is authorized. This is so cinematic. The way it's all phrased, it makes you try to envision it as if you're watching a show or a movie. Like the way a scene ends, in a way like a scene you see in a movie will just cut to the next one. And the way this is shot, like just imagine the writer put such a dramatic shot in his mind, or like Leo in the center and all the cops are pointing. I got like John Wick. This is all in the mind of a teenager. "It was me. I beat up those little punks. I had the marks to prove it." He lifted up his sleeve to reveal cuts and bruises as if he was in a struggle. "Son, just put the knife down," said the officer. Leo held up a knife and dropped it on the ground. He just put his hands up and walked over to the cops. "No, Leo, it was me. I did it." Jeff had tears running down his face. "Oh, poor bro, trying to take the blame for what I did. Well, take me away." The police let Leo out of a patrol car. "Jeff, please, you don't have to lie. We know it's Leo. You can stop." Jeff watched helplessly as the cop car speeds off with Leo inside. Speeds off! A few minutes later, Jeff's dad pulled into the driveway, seeing Jeff's face and knowing something was wrong. "I'm sorry, did nobody notify you? Did nobody notify you? Hey, your son is in jail now." Son, what is it?" Jeff couldn't answer. His vocal cords were strained for crying. Instead, Jeff's mother walked his father inside to break the bad news to him. Did you not call your husband? Woman, did you not call your husband when your fucking son went to juvie when they got taken by... But they had a very tiny handcuff with the diameter of a water bottle at this kid whose arm clearly the size of toothpicks, yeah. After an hour or so, okay. Jeff's mother walked his father inside to bring the bad news to him as Jeff wept in the driveway. After an hour or so, Jeff walked back into the house, seeing that his parents were both shocked, sad, and disappointed. He couldn't look at them. He couldn't see how they thought of Liu when it was his fault. He just went to sleep, trying to get the whole thing off his mind. 2 days went by with no word from Liu at JDC. No friends to hang out with. Nothing but sadness and guilt. That is until Saturday, when Jeff is woken up by his mother with a happy sunshine face. "Jeff, it's a day!" she said as she opened up the curtains and let the light flood into his room. "What? What's the day?" asked Jeff as he stares awake. "Why, it's Billy's birthday!" He was now fully awake. "Mom, you're joking, right? Yeah, I was making to go to some kid's party after." It was a long pause. "Jeff, we both know what happened. I think this party could be the thing that brings us the past days. I'll get dressed." Jeff's mother walked out of the room and downstairs to get ready herself. He fought himself to get up. You're hyping up a lot the birthday of a stranger that you just met." He picked up a random shirt, a pair of jeans, and walked downstairs. He saw his mother and father all dressed up, his mother in a dress and his father in a suit. It's a kid's birthday! It's a kid's birthday, it's not... What are you doing? It's a kid's birthday! He thought, why they would ever wear such fancy clothes to a kid's party. I know! I know! "Son, is that all you're going to wear?" said Jeff's mom. "Better than wearing too much," he said. His mother pushed down his feelings down to yell at him and hit it with a smile. "Now, Jeff, we may be overdressed, but this is how you go if you want to make an impression." That his father. Jeff grunted and went back to his room. "I don't have any fancy clothes," he yelled downstairs. "Just pick out something," called his mother. He looked around at his closet for what he could call fancy. He found a pair of black dress pants he had for a special occasion and an undershirt. He couldn't find a shirt to go with it. He looked around and found only striped and patterned shirts, none of which go with dress pants. Finally, he found a white hoodie and put it on. "You're wearing that," they both said. His mother looked at her watch. He's your son. He's your son. You should be, at 13, you should be controlling what this kid wears in his wardrobe. I don't know how you're surprised by this. "Oh, no time to change. Let's just go," she said as she herded Jeff and his wife out the door. They crossed the street over to Barbara and Billy's house. They knocked on the door as it appeared that Barbara, just like his parents, way overdressed. As they walked inside, all Jeff could see were adults, no kids. "The kids are in the yard, Jeff. How about you go and meet some of them?" said Barbara. Jeff walked outside to a yard full of kids. They were running around in weird cowboy costumes and shooting each other with plastic guns. He might as well be standing in a Toys R Us. That's old. Oh man, that's very old. To be fair, when I was a child, I already control my word the most, not Jeff. That's it. "Hey, wanna play?" I shit you not. Okay. This is, look at the way it's worded. Ah, you can see it. Oh my god, you can see it. Ah, the children dialogue, the L's are replaced with W's. So instead of, "Hey, you wanna play?" it's like, "Hey, you wanna play? Hey, wanna play?" He said, "Ah, no, kid. I'm way too old for this stuff. You're 13. The kid looked at him with a weird puppy dog face. "Please," said the kid. "Fine," said Jeff. He put on the hat and started to pretend to shoot at the kids. At first, he thought it was totally ridiculous, but then he started to actually have fun. It might have been super cool, but it was the first time he had done something that took his mind off Liu. So he played with the kids for a while until he heard a noise. Weird rolling noise. Then hit him. Randy, Troy, Keith all jumped over the fence on their skateboard. What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck? Jeff dropped the fake gun and ripped off the hat. Randy looked at Jeff with a burning hatred. "Hello, Jeff, is it?" he said. "We have some unfinished business." Jeff saw his bruised nose. "I think we're even. I beat the crap out of you and you'll get my brother sent to JDC. Randy got an angry look on his eyes. "Oh no, I don't go for even, I go for winning." "You may have kicked our asses out one day, but not today." He said that. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. Oh my god. He said that. Randy rushed at Jeff. They both fell to the ground. Randy punched Jeff in the nose, and Jeff grabbed him by the ears and headbutted him. Jeff rushed Randy off of him, and both rose to their feet. Kids were screaming, and parents were running out of the house. Troy and Keith both pulled guns out of the Kids were screaming, and parents were running out of the house. Troy and Keith both pulled guns out of their pockets. Troy and Keith both pulled guns out of their pockets. No one interrupts or guts will fly. Randy pulled a knife on Jed and stabbed it into his shoulder. Jeff screamed and fell to his knee. Where did they get the guns? 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 Randy started kicking him in the face. After 3 kicks, Jeff grabbed his foot and twisted, causing Randy to fall to the ground. Jeff stood up and walked towards the back door. Troy grabbed him. Need some help? He picks Jeff up by the back of the collar and throws him through the patio door. How? You're 12! You're 12! How you do this? You're 12! If Jeff tries to stand up, he's kicked down to the ground. Randy repeatedly starts kicking Jeff until he starts to cough up blood. This is a birthday party. There are so many adults here, and none of them want to interrupt because 2 of them had guns. You're adults. They're 12. Come on, Jeff, fight me. He picks Jeff up and throws him into the kitchen. Randy sees a bottle of vodka on the counter and smashes the glass over Jeff's head. What are you doing with a bottle of vodka on a kid's party? What are you doing with a bottle of vodka? We're joking. Oh, silly kids. Yeah, the parents must be all watching. Jeff's parents must be just watching. Oh, he's seen it. He's fine. He'll be fine. Did they say? No, oh, that's spoilers. It's spoilers. He picks it. Okay. Come on, Jeff. Fight me. He picks Jeff up and throws him into the kitchen. Randy sees the bottle of vodka on the counter, smashes it on the glass over Jeff's head. Fight! He throws Jeffy back into the living room. Come on, Jeff, look at me! He glances up, his face riddled with blood. I was the one who got your brother sent to JDC. And now you're just gonna sit here and let him rot in there for a whole year. You should be ashamed. I'm the Joker. I am 12. Jeff starts to get up. Oh, finally, you stand and fight. Jeff is now on his feet, blood and vodka on his face. Once again, he gets that strange feeling, the one in which he hasn't felt for a while. Finally, he's up, he says Randy, and he runs at Jeff. That's when it happens. Something inside Jeff snaps. His psyche is destroyed. All rational thinking is gone. All he can do is kill. He grabs Randy and pile drives him to the ground. He gets on top of him and punches him straight in the heart. The punch causes Randy's heart to stop. You're 13! You're 13! As Randy gasps for breath, Jeff hammers down on him. Punch after punch, blood gushes from Randy's body until he takes one final breath and dies. Yeah, like Troy and Keith are just no fucking normal chance that the hell that 13-year-old could do that. I know, right? Everyone is looking at Jeff now. The parents, the crying kids, even Troy and Keith. Although they easily break from their gaze and point their gun at Jeff. Jeff sees the guns train on him and runs to the stairs. He runs, Troy and Keith let out a fire at him. God, bro! No! As he runs, Troy and Keith just fucking go. Like, there's people in the house, like, just start going at it. What the? Each shot missing. Jeff runs up the stairs. He hears Troy and Keith follow behind. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody is acting. Nobody's trying to get in the way. Everyone's just watching. Everyone's just fucking watching things. And Jeff is fast enough to dodge bullets. As they let out their final rounds of bullets, Jeff ducks into the bathroom. He grabs a towel rack and rips it off the wall. Troy and Keith are racing, knives ready. Troy swings his knife at Jeff, who backs away and bangs the towel rack into Troy's face. Troy goes down hard, and now all that's left is Keith. He's more agile than Troy though, because he's not fat, and ducks when Jeff swings the towel rack. He dropped the knife and grabbed Jeff by the neck. He pushed him into the wall. A thing of bleach fell on top of him from the top shelf. It burned both of them and they both started to scream. Jeff wiped his eyes as best as he could. He pulled back the towel rack and swung straight at Keith's head. As he lay there bleeding to death, he let out an ominous smile. What's so funny? Asked Jeff. Keith pulled out a lighter and switched it on. What's funny, he said, is that you're covered in bleach and alcohol. Jeff's eyes widened and as Keith threw the lighter at him. As soon as the flame made contact with him, the flames ignited the alcohol in the vodka. While the alcohol burned him, the bleach bleached his skin. I'm not even paraphrasing. That's word for word what's saying. The bleach bleached his skin. The bleach bleached his skin. The bleach bleached his skin. Jeff let out a terrible screech as he caught on fire. He tried to roll out the fire, but it was no use. The alcohol had made him a walking inferno. Damn. He ran down the hall and fell down the stairs. Everybody started screaming as they saw Jeff. Oh, now a man of fire. Dropped to the ground, nearly dead. The last thing Jeff saw was his mother and the other parents trying to extinguish the flames. That's when he passed out. When Jeff woke up, he had a cast wrapped around his face. He couldn't see anything, but he felt a cast on his shoulders and stitches all over his body. He tried to stand up, but he realized there was some tube in his arm. And when he tried to get up, it fell out, and a nurse rushed in. Okay, yeah, I guess we're just gonna sit and let this wash over us. I don't think you can get out of bed just yet, she said as she put him back on the bed and reinserted the tube. Jeff sat there with no vision, no idea what his surroundings were. Finally, after hours, he heard his mother. Honey, are you okay? She asked. Jeff couldn't answer though. His face was covered, and he was unable to speak. Oh honey, I have great news. After all the witnesses told the police that Randy confessed on trying to attack you, they decided to let Leo go. They're dead! They're dead! They're dead kids! I can't stand by this. I can't stand by it. I can't stand by it. Damn it, I can't stand by it. He killed a kid! Why are the cops there already? This made Jeff almost bolt up, stopping halfway, remembering the tube coming out of his arm. He'll be out tomorrow, and then you two will be able to be together again. Jeff's mom's hugger, just mother hugs Jeff and says her goodbyes. Oh yeah, bye. The next couple of weeks were those where his family members were all there to see it, what he would look like. As the doctors unwrapped the bandage from Jeff's face, everyone was on the edge of their seats. Why? They waited until the last bandage holding the cover over his face was almost removed. Let's hope for the best, said the doctor. He quickly pulled the cloth, letting the rest fall from Jeff's face. Jeff's mother screams at the sight of Liu and Jeff's dad stare awestruck at his face. What? What happened to my face? I only got burned to death, Jeff said. He rushed out of bed and ran to the bathroom. He looked in the mirror and saw the cause of the distress. His face, it's horrible. His lips were burned to a deep shade of red. His face turned to a pure white color and his hair singed from brown to black. He slowly put his hand on his face. It has sort of leathery feel to it. Ow. Looked back at his face and back at the mirror. Okay, so let's make another pause here. Do you think how do you think your skin looks when you receive third-degree burns? Because just going white is not it. Your face just going white because you had third-degree burns is not how it goes. Your face will not look wrinkly. You will have all the skin tissue that tried to regrow just make such a wrinkly mess and red and more muscly looking. It will look bad. It will look very bad. You will not be perfectly white. You will not look perfectly white. I'm immune to burning, I guess. Jeff is just built different like that. Jeff, said Leo, it's not that bad. Not that bad, said Jeff. It's perfect. His family was equally surprised. Jeff started laughing uncontrollably. His parents noticed that his left eye and hand were twitching. Jeff, are you okay? Okay, I've never felt more happy. And it proceeds to type out ha 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 on the text. I'm not joking. Right after it says I've never felt more happy, it's written ha, comma, ha, comma, ha, comma, ha, comma, ha, ha. Look at me! This face goes perfectly with me. He couldn't stop laughing. He stroked his face, feeling it. Looking at it in the mirror, what caused this? Well, you may recall that when Jeff was finding Randy, something in his mind. Okay. Oh, wait. This is not dialogue. This is the narrator. This is the narrator talking to you. Hold on. What caused this? Well, you may recall that when Jeff was fighting Randy, something in his mind, his sanity snapped. This is the narrator. This is not dialogue. This is not something that the doctor is saying. This is something that the author is telling you, the reader, like breaking the fourth wall. Like, what happened is that this just happened. Anyway, yeah, remember 3 minutes ago? Do you recall what happened? Now he was left as a crazy killing machine. That is. His parents didn't know. Doctor, said Jeff's mom, is my son alright? You know, in the head. Oh yes, this behavior is typical for patients that have taken life. Typical for what? What patients have you seen? Is my son alright in the head? This behavior is typical for patients that have taken very large amounts of pain. Of painkillers. Okay, this is different. This is different. If this behavior doesn't change in a few weeks, bring him back here and we'll give him a psychological Do the test right now! Oh, thank you, doctor. Jeff's mother went over to Jeff. Jeff, sweetie, it's time to go. Jeff looks away from the mirror, his face still formed into a crazy smile. I don't want to read this. It says, I don't know if you get to see it, but it says, K, mommy. Ha ha ha. Word for word. Verbatim. Verbatim. Jeff responds to that with, K, mommy. Ha ha ha. Verbatim. I'm not paraphrasing. This is verbatim. Word for word. I'm literally reading what's on the paper. Or will eat your heart out. His mother took him by the shoulder and took him to get his clothes. Wasn't he stabbed on the shoulder? This is what came in, said the lady at the desk. Jeff's mom looked down to see the black dress pants and the white hoodie her son wore. Now they were clean of blood and now stitched together. Then they left, not knowing this was their final day in their life. Later that night, Jeff's mother woke up to a sound coming from the bathroom. It sounded as if someone was crying. She slowly walked over to what it was, or to see what it was. When she looked into the bathroom, she saw a horrendous sight. Jeff had taken a knife and carved a smile into his cheeks. Jeff, what are you doing? He asked his mother. Jeff looked over to his mother. I couldn't keep smiling, Mommy. It hurt after a while. Now I can smile forever. Jeff's mother noticed his eyes, ringed in black. Jeff, your eyes! His eyes were seemingly never closing. I couldn't see my face. I got tired and my eyes started to close. I burned out the eyelids so I could forever see myself, my new face. Jeff's mother slowly started to back away, seeing that her son was going insane. What's wrong, Mom? Aren't I beautiful? Yes, son, she said. Yes, you are. Let me go get that so he can see your face. She ran into the room and shook Jeff's dad from his sleep. Honey, get the gun! But it's still here. Honey, do what God should have done. Honey, put him down. This is his mom. His mom saw this and immediately thought to send him back to Jesus. No hesitation. He saw the sight. No attempt to rationalize or like come to terms with it. Just like immediately, let's send him back to Jesus. Put him back out. Honey, get to God. She stopped as she saw Jeff in the doorway holding a knife. Mom, you lied. That's the last thing they hear as Jeff rushes them with a knife, gutting both of them. His brother Liu woke up. startled by some noise. He didn't hear anything else, so he just shut his eyes and tried to go back to sleep. Leo, come on, man. As he was on the border of slumber, he had the strangest feeling that someone was watching him. He looked up before Jeff's hand covered his mouth. He slowly raised his knife, ready to plunge it into Liu. Liu thrashed here and there, trying to escape Jeff's grip. Shh, Jeff said. Just go to sleep. This author projected so much into this story, you know? This is a teenager's wet dream. He was projecting so much. Like some deep fantasy that he had of beating up his bullies, of being so cool and fight, and then becoming. How long ago was it written? 2012. This is a 2012 story. It should have ended. It should have ended with "What I've Done" from Linkin Park. Yeah, I guess. Imagine being the OG author and getting your shit roasted in the forever in the internet. Oh my god, so many people made fun of this. I'm not the first one, unfortunately. And then I dodged. I mean, Jeff dodged the bullets. 100% made by middle school. Yes, I should write a copy pasta like this. You should. I love that we never explain what the feeling is. He arrives at his home. He lay down, and suddenly he has a feeling. Like he has a feeling. He has an urge to hurt, and you know the one. Yeah, the feeling. Yeah, the feel. Yeah, you know it. Yeah, the feel. We all got it. that must be how the author feels. Like, yeah, then he got the feel. Like, we all get the feel, right? You know the feel, right? Like that feel. Yeah, the murderous feel. We all have it, right? You have it, right? Right? Well, I think it's time to say goodbye to Jeff. Bye, Jeff. He got bitten by a radioactive killer. Oh, man. I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. Today was something. Okay. Oh god. Okay. Okay, I can breathe. Okay. Okay. Living all the thing of bleach being there unironically. Me too. They don't even explain what the bleach was. They just said that something with bleach just poured in front of them. Stop undressing. I'm sorry. This is as much as you get. Yeah, granted, I'm still in a suit. I'm dressed fancy right now, as you can see. Dress all fancy in a suit. Nice little look. But yeah, that's all. That's all I have. That's all the stories. We went through everything. Thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you so much for letting me do this, by allowing me to do this, by helping me do this. I want everyone to thank TK for making this background, because it would have been impossible without him. Are you gonna read my immortal? I'm not gonna do that. Well, we went through many stories today. We went through gories. Very gory stuff. We went through cognito hazards, which were fun. We went through horrifying realities. We went through what it's like to write for a school project. We read some cool urban legends. We read some really well-made stories, well written and well. They were good. They were good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you for reading and doing the stream. Yeah, I'm really glad everyone enjoyed it. I'm really glad that it's also brought so many people to enjoy this, because it's the first time, the one time I've done something like this. So thank you for just, you know, giving me some attention about this, because it was a very special occasion. Yeah, odds rated us. That's why there's so many people. We also, what else we had? Salga, that was fine. And then the tape. There's very cool concepts. There's some clever ones, like very clever form of storytelling. And then there's really good horror. But yeah, the exclamation reading, you're gonna find every story that we read. You're gonna find like all the people that wrote these, all the people that made this possible, all the people that made something for me to read. It's a lot. It means a lot, you know, because I would not be the way I am if I wasn't shaped by stories like this one, for better or worse. Storytelling is amazing. Storytelling is one of the best things you can make, the best things you can do. Storytelling defines people. Storytelling can really define, motivate, inspire, and do so much to a person who can stop and appreciate such tales. So please keep writing, because it's one of the best things you can create. Keep writing, and if not, and even then, start writing, because storytelling is one of the best things creativity can produce. So please, even if it's Jeff the Killer, even if it's just Jeff the Killer, even if it's something like that, you gotta start somewhere. Jeff the Killer was just hard. I don't blame you. But then you can make stuff like Abandoned by Disney, the strangest tape I've ever seen. You can make so much. You can create so much by just writing. So please, write. It's inspiring. It's life-changing. It's good. If you have ideas, if you have concepts, if something crosses your mind, write it down. Even if on paper or on a document on the computer, write it down. Go somewhere with it. You have ideas, go for them. Now, I don't know how to end this. I don't really have a good ending note. But then something creepy happens and suddenly ends it. Yeah. What was that? Oh my god, what? You hear that? Oh my god, it's like something's in the room here with me. Oh my god, I think we summoned something tonight. Holy shit, guys, what do we do? No. Oh my god, no. It's something. It's something that. Oh my god. Who turned off the lights? Oh my god, what is going on? What is going on, guys? What could possibly be what's going on? Oh,